Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the channel. We're going to be watching one MAGA Republican. What's he called? What's this? Dave Rubin against 20 far-left Democrats. I can't believe someone's allowed Dave Rubin to go on this show. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think he's not ready for this type of situation. He hasn't got the capacity, intellectual or otherwise, to hold himself, to carry himself through this. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay.
So has wokeness pushed America past the breaking point, or is the progressive movement the only answer to MAGA? I'm John Regalado, and from Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded,
I like this guy, John
where one brave soul faces a room full of disagreeers. Today we're unpacking what it means to be far left, the backlash to wokeness, and what your vote stands for in the upcoming midterm election. I'm here with our featured guest, conservative commentator Dave Rubin. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Are y'all ready to debate, Dave? Let's begin.
I'm Dave Rubin of The Rubin Report, and today I'm surrounded by the far left.
Since the uprising of Jordan Peterson, he's kind of just disappeared off the.
I used to charge £10 for this book, and I thought, you know what? Let me just give it as a complete free gift.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dave's.
My first surrounded claim is that wokeism did more damage to America than Trump ever did.
All right, if you would like to debate this claim, please get to the center. In 3, 2, 1.
He fails at both.
He's quick. He's quick.
Yes, I am. So I find it interesting that you think wokeism has done so much damage to America as opposed to Donald Trump.
Literally, the only thing I've ever heard him talk about is wokeism. It's kind of boring after the first year, even though it is something that should be spoke about. He just doesn't do it in a very effective or interesting or it's just Dave Rubin's just one big talking point. That's all he is.
Wokeism did not kick 17 million Americans off of their health insurance through Medicaid. Wokeism didn't start a disastrous war with Iran that has now led to inflation outpacing wage growth. Wokeism hasn't ripped up institutions or attempted even to destroy free speech, even by your standards, because Ronald Reagan appointed judge ruled that the Trump administration was violating the First Amendment by attempting to deport, arrest, and detain students and faculty members on college campuses for protesting for Palestine. Wokeism, to me, it doesn't even have remotely as disastrous as a track record as Donald Trump.
Well, how would you define wokeism? I guess we should start with that.
I think wokeism is a pejorative term that's used to describe left-wing cultural politics.
Right. And what do you think left-wing cultural politics are?
I'd say left-wing cultural politics include just the broad...
He's going to bring absolutely nothing original to this debate, I'm sure. I will be perplexed if he actually says something that's thought-provoking. Anyway.
Broad attitudes towards social justice, especially for minority groups that have faced persecution in various ways.
Okay, so I think the simplest way to define wokeism is basically collectivism on steroids, and usually as it applies to race and gender, meaning that you should be judged based on the color. You actually should be judged based on the color of your skin and your sexuality and your gender and a whole bunch of immutable characteristics. And depending on where those fall.
That is like a core tenet of wokeism, I would say. That's a fair diagnosis. But where's he going to go from this? So we've established that wokeism, he thinks this is his axiomatic claim that wokeism is the prevalence of group identity and how holding group identity as paramount. That's kind of the axiom of the ideology. That's what Dave's putting forward.
All on the left's kind of hierarchy of importance. That's kind of how you can parse out where people should be and how important their ideas are.
So even assuming your characterization to be an accurate characterization, which I don't necessarily take.
Right. We're gonna have a lot of trouble getting to a fair agreement on wokeism.
That wokeism has, for example, skyrocketed inflation to outpace wage growth the way that Donald Trump's war of aggression on Iran has done? Can you demonstrate that wokeism has violated the First Amendment by arresting students and faculty members on college campuses?
Okay. Well, yes, I can. So let's start. Well, first off, the disastrous war, the quote-unquote disastrous war that you're talking about. You're talking about a 40-day military operation that stopped an apocalyptic regime from getting a nuclear bomb and exporting terrorism throughout the world. And we're now in a We're now in an economic embargo.
What's the
Them,
word?
right? We've
Catastrophism.
basically done a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So to say it's a disastrous war,
we've done a
we
blockade.
did lose. Hang on. We did lose 13. We did lose 13 of our soldiers, and that is
and killed over
terrible.
200 children.
But well, things happen in war, right?
Yeah,
Things, yeah. Well, things do happen in war. You got, wait,
so-
you can
so-
laugh
so-
at that. Hold on. Listen, you
wait, no,
want to talk?
I
or
know,
not?
I agree. I
No.
agree, but that's why war should be a last option.
War is the last.
If Donald Trump wanted to prevent the Islamic Republic of Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, he could have just stuck with the Iran nuclear deal that he ripped up.
No, and
Iran did not enrich past the 3.67. Wait, they didn't enrich past the 3.67% agreed upon in the JCPOA. They only got to 60% after Donald Trump left that deal and then started doing aggressive actions.
I must say, I'm impressed with your talking points. You got impressive talking points, and you memorized them well. They're not correct, but I am impressed.
Okay.
First off, the Iranians admitted in the negotiations right before the war started that they were enriching past what they were allowed to. That's number one. Number two, you also have to go on the assumption. You also have to go. Hold on.
Because we hold on.
You also have
at a time.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on foreign policy, especially not on the ones that they're talking about. But Iran is one of these places that people have been claiming they've had like enriched uranium for decades now. I'm sure many of you have seen that compilation clip of Netanyahu claiming that they've had enriched uranium for the past since like the 90s. So it's a pretty bad argument that David Rubin's trying to walk down right now.
You also have to go on the assumption or acceptance that can you agree or verify their claims? It's one thing to say, oh, this is what we're doing.
Reports show that Iran did not enrich uranium beyond GOP's 3.67% limit after Trump pulled the US out of the nuclear deal. Iran started exceeding that capacity in 2019 in response to the withdrawal.
This is what we are agreed to, et cetera. But you have to be able to verify that. And the idea that we have people on the ground or the UN or some third-party organization that can verify what they're actually doing with underground nuclear sites and a whole bunch of other things is I would say, quite a leap of faith, right? You want to trust but verify.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So the IAEA and U.S. intelligence said that Iran did not enrich past the 3.67% prior to Donald Trump ripping up and stepping out of the Iran nuclear deal in I believe it was 2017, 2018.
So again,
when he did that.
in these negotiations,
because Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal to begin with, that's the only reason why.
Let's try it a different way. I'll try it a different way.
The IAEA assessments agree with me, and Tulsi Gabbard, our director of national intelligence, testified in front of Congress last year, and according to the entire intelligence community, Iran did not have a nuclear weapons program.
Okay, that they didn't have a nuclear weapons program. They were enriching past the point that they were allowed to for civilian use. Everyone knows that. But, but allow me.
But do you understand the weaponization process is different than just enriching?
Do you think the Iranian regime
to be able to succeed on this show? David Rubin just hasn't got that.
For 40 years. Do you think that was a good regime? Would you say that was a good government? Would you like to live under those people? Were they progressive in any way? Do they hold any of the values that any of you guys hold?
No, but we don't just start wars on countries whose politics we disagree with or who are oppressive to their own people. We were actually an ally to Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman ripped up.
That I agree with. You don't do that.
Okay.
We got something. All right, we got something. We got something with Israel
that has committed gross human rights violations in Gaza.
I'm shocked that Israel came up. Israel, the only place that has any of the progressive values that any of you guys share.
Really? This is actually this is perfect. This is perfect because one of the things that you told me at the beginning of this conversation was that wokeism was judging people based on characteristics and collective thought. Israel is literally centered around the prioritization of the Jewish people as a matter of policy. That is literally collectivist thought. So you must hate Israel too. You must think that that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate form of collective identity, right?
How many Muslim countries are there?
Okay, so you're just pivoting.
No. I'm going to answer.
But is Israel collectivist?
How many Muslim countries are there?
I'm sure there are a lot of Muslim countries.
You have
because
any idea?
There are a lot more Muslims than Jews.
Yeah. Well, just ballpark. How many Muslim countries are there?
I would probably maybe say like let's say between 10 to 20, maybe.
All right, you're off by about 40. There's about 52 or 53 Muslim countries.
Yeah.
In any of those countries, how's it going for minorities, women, gays, Christians, Jews?
Yeah, I can say that other nations, it's extraordinarily
not
repressive.
sorority?
But like I
no,
said,
no,
Okay,
wait,
we got to pause there.
No,
We got to
no.
pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
okay.
Please return to your seat.
Oh, the suit and trainers combo kills me. It just kills me. That's-
Oh, she had it. She had it. All right.
Dave,
All right. Hi.
Right.
good to meet
slowly
you. I'm
work
actually a big
together.
fan. I've been watching you since like
dominance.
all the way back in the Sam Harris era.
Oh yeah.
And then I remember you brought on-
softening me up. Okay.
No, you brought
okay.
on like Stephen Molyneux, like the white nationalist, and I was like, this guy just loves ideas. He just loves all different types of ideas. I love that. But yeah, just wanted to talk right now specifically about the difference between progressive values and the MAGA coalition.
Sure.
It seems to me that all of the ills that are attributed to wokeism are typically things that people find annoying. So people being overly, policey about.
It's crazy because I used to watch the Rubin report back when Rubin was pals with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and that whole thing. Sort of the climax of the sort of Daily Wire. And yeah, he had some interesting conversations. At least because I'm not putting that at the feet of David Rubin as a host. He had some decent guests, and so sometimes I actually occasionally like to watch his show. He had people on like Coleman Hughes and decent guests with decent points to be made. But since then, he's really kind of fallen off.
Their pronoun usage or talking about specific groups that might seem extremely marginalized. That's what I typically hear from the right. I don't hear like a degradation of like society unless it's the far theocratic right. And I don't think that you ascribe to that. Would you call yourself a theocrat?
I mean, I wrote the best-selling book on classical liberalism, so it's funny. I get called a conservative all the time. I actually happen to be a liberal in the truest sense of liberal.
You should join the circle.
Unfortunate, and progressives are not liberal as a general rule of thought. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like that type of like annoyance that wokeism presents to the world is a lot less dangerous than like, I don't know, the coalition that you're a part of that like condemns people for having children when they're in gay marriages or says things like.
Yeah, this is kind of like an unprovable point. I don't know why he's picked this as a prompt. Wokeism did more damage to America. Like, that's not really a point that can be proved, and so he's set himself up badly here. Horrible freeze frame there on David Rubin.
People that are of particular sexual orientations don't deserve the same equal rights.
Well,
would you say that that's something that's dangerous?
A coalition is going to have all sorts of people in it. So it's like MAGA, if we were talking
ideological diversity.
Yeah, if we were talking about what MAGA is, what I like about MAGA actually is that it's not a specific set of you have to believe this exact set, right? You have to believe these exact
some people in MAGA can
things.
believe like gay couples can have kids, and others can believe like that's degeneracy and those people need to be jailed.
Well,
those are like the difference of ideas.
Actually, the tough answer to that is yes. As long as you're not trying to litigate someone's life. I am around a lot of conservatives all the time, and particularly Christian conservatives, let's say, they generally are not for gay marriage. By the way, there's not one mosque in the United States that performs gay marriages, which is worth noting.
Why are you so focused on Muslims today?
Well, I'm just giving you giving you a fact. But what I have found consistently, Donald Trump was the first first-time president that was for gay marriage.
I actually really want to talk about
Barack Obama was not for gay marriage when he first came in.
And not until 2013.
So what I would say is the MAGA movement. I mean, look, Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, is married to a man and has kids. Peter Thiel is married to a man and has kids. Douglas Murray is one of the greatest voices we have in conservatism, happens to be gay.
Yeah.
God bless Douglas Murray.
I don't, for the most part, people on the right actually believe in individual rights and don't really care. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that everyone has to have the same religious perspective on everything.
But you've been around the block for a long time, and just like you alluded to, in 2016, Trump held up a flag that said LGBTQ for Trump. He was asked in a CBS interview, would you let Caitlyn Jenner use the bathroom that she wants to in your hotels? He said, absolutely. He didn't have a problem with that.
He actually gave a better answer than that. He said, I'm a hotel builder. If you told me I had to build one bathroom, that would be fine with me. I think it's a great answer.
But that's what's crazy is that evolution has changed so much to the current MAGA movement. The MAGA movement today. Donald Trump would absolutely not say that somebody could use the bathroom aligned with their gender identity. He specifically banned that. And not just that, but he's also just called for, he specifically wrote an executive order that classifies far leftist groups like pro-transgender groups as a danger to the country, which often the entire military can go after. That is insane. That is absolutely a violation of people's individual rights.
The White House released its new US counterterrorism strategy, which explicitly names violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists such as Antifa and radically pro-transgender groups, as security threats alongside cartels and Islamic terror groups.
All right, so you want to talk about the trans issue sort of broadly? I want
to talk about the MAGA coalition
what I can tell you,
what I can individual liberty, yet wants to police the way that people express
But what are they
themselves,
doing?
That also wants to police people's bodies, that want to go after people specifically because of their ethnicity. None of that should be
so
tolerated.
Donald Trump is in the middle of his second term. Gay marriage is here. It's passed. It's a just
then
cause.
Why are
I believe in individual rights.
Wait, you're friends with Michael Knowles, right?
Yeah.
So what's that coalition again called? I think it's like Less Equal, that's trying to actually get rid of Obergefell and overturn gay marriage rights. Does that not concern you?
Well, first off, I've never heard of that specific organization, but what I can tell you,
you're friends with them.
Michael is part of. I just don't know what you're talking about. But what I would
look it up right now.
What I would say is
Less Than. And it's Lila Rose, Michael Knowles. I think it's what's that guy's name at the Daily Wire, the head one?
Okay, but that's not Donald Trump.
I understand they want to go away from this.
No. That's not Donald Trump. That's not the head of the party. I have friends. Well, first off, Michael and I are friends, but there is a cap on our friendship. There actually is.
Friends with someone who doesn't want you to be in love, my man.
He doesn't want me to be in love. He's had dinner at my house with his wife.
We had this moment with Tim Dillon talks about this moment with Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, and they're having a conversation, and then Ben Shapiro just without an issue says, I wouldn't attend your marriage. And then David just has to sit there like he realizes that he's friends with someone that doesn't even support his whole lifestyle. It's quite hilarious.
If my husband cooked for him,
that's against God. So I want to have a word with him.
But think about what you're saying. I get
Dave,
think about what I'm saying.
But what I want to say
your name. Wait. Hold on, champ. You know, in your world of how tolerant you are showing me you are,
it does put Dave in a precarious situation where he's a gay man married to a man, obviously, but he's like pretty hard right. I wouldn't say hard right. He's very conservative, and he surrounds himself with very conservative people, which, you know, I mean, you could say the same with Douglas Murray, but I don't think Douglas Murray sort of makes a show of attaching himself to all these people, whereas Dave Rubin really does kind of blow smoke up other people's asses. And it's just like, these people don't support you. Why are you supporting them back? Whereas Douglas Murray is, he's conservative, but he's more individual. At least that's how I see it anyway.
You're actually showing a remarkable amount of intolerance, because although I don't know the group that you're talking about, Michael Knowles as a human being has been to my house, and my husband has cooked him lamb, and we have enjoyed evenings together and shared personal moments and all of those things. Now, do we agree on absolutely everything? Of course, the answer to that is no. And if Michael or anyone else was trying to lead some organization that was going to go against my civil rights, well, that is where obviously we would have our difference of opinion, of course.
Dave,
but I also respect people's religious beliefs. They're allowed to have their religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs are not allowed to legislate my life. This is all very separate from the trans thing, which obviously I sense is going to come up a few more times.
I'll just say real quick, I'm not trying to come after you. I believe that you should have the full liberty to have the family of your choice. But what I will say is I'm glad Michael treats you with respect individually when you guys are together. But when he goes in front of his platform and says that a video of two gay men having a child is the most disgusting thing that he's ever seen, which is a quote, you can look up the tweet. Michael said that child is in one of the most dangerous situations he can think of, which is crazy to think of all the abusive parents that actually live in this society, regardless of sexual orientation. And you're going to look at a happy family and say, this is disgusting. That should feel like a violation.
Okay, so I didn't see that video, but if what you're asking me is do I agree with, if let's just say what you said is true, do I agree with Michael's point on that? Of course, the answer is no.
But that is the MAGA coalition.
No.
That's what I'm saying. That is the ideology.
No, that's not the coalition. No, that's not the coalition. No, that's not the coalition.
That is what the administration is pushing
you're taking
towards.
a very specific person and you're saying.
Is it a small specific?
Oh,
is it
absolutely.
French?
Yes.
No, it is not.
Yes. Oh, it is.
The majority.
No, that's completely absurd. That's
is
completely absurd. It's
Okay,
completely absurd.
We got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority. Please
Give me
return
two.
to
All
your
right.
seat.
Safe Store is the
we're
UK's
two men in.
#1 for
Two men
choice
in.
in self-storage.
He's
Our customers
not doing
rate
as
us
badly
five-
as I thought it would be. Like, it's not Jordan Peterson level bad. I'm so furious about that. Why did Jordan Peterson's people, team, whoever he has surrounding him, why did they allow him to go on that show? Or why didn't he himself do the research? That was such a bad showing for Jordan Peterson. Such a big L. And it's not because he can't debate, it's not because he's not a good debater, but he was one, sick. I'm assuming he was sick of some sort, some affliction or another. He wasn't in his best form. And he just didn't have the speed and snappiness, and he wasn't sharp enough to be on there. I don't know why. I don't know why he made the appearance. It was bad. But so yeah, he's not doing as bad as Jordan Peterson did, but still pretty bad.
Good
So-
grab.
I want to go to your prompt in
You
a
still got
second, but I just
Parker.
wanted to address, though, I actually come from a Christian background. I
Yeah,
spent
yeah,
a lot of my career debating Christian nationalists. And even the nicest Christian nationalists, they do want to take your rights. I spend a lot of time talking to these people, even the
Yeah.
really nice ones. So I just want to be careful. And I guess I want to say, like, I remember when you posted about having your kids
Yeah.
on Twitter, which
Yeah.
congratulations. on
Yeah,
your
thanks.
kids. The comments were horrifying. I don't know if you remember, but it was
Yeah.
I can only
Christian nationalists and Republicans tearing you and your husband down for having a child.
Well, you should also note there was a lot of love. There was an awful lot of love from an awful lot of conservatives and liberals and people across the board and everything else. The way the internet operates is people only focus on the negative. So was there a whole bunch of nasty
Which
comments?
side did it
Was
come
there a
from
whole
more?
bunch of nasty?
Do you guess? Let's be honest. Let's just be honest. Which side
for
supports it more?
that? If you're asking me about for that specific post, it
Democrats
was
and
no.
liberals.
For that specific post, it was mostly people on the right, for sure. It was.
Who are attacking him?
Yeah, I
Of course.
fully acknowledge that.
Of course.
Absolutely. 99% of the hate that I get is from people that are in this circle.
Sure,
So
but
I
it's
want-
definitely
so-
not for being gay.
What? No.
it's
Well,
for supporting-
no,
going back to the prompt,
no.
It's for supporting
It's not for being gay, like
an
the act
authoritarian,
of gay.
desiring,
Yeah.
probably demented old man. So going back to the prompt of wokeism, it seems like you defined it as intersectionality, some collectivization based on
Yeah,
demographic
that you take.
factors.
Yeah, we could basically
So
go with that.
wokeism is intersectionality.
It is a intersection.
Intersectionality, by the way I understand it, is the splitting up of people into groups based on their identity. So intersectionality would be the splitting up of people into race, gender, disability, and whatever else, sexuality, things like this. As I understand it, that's what it is. Let me just do a quick Google check live. Intersectionality. Let's have a look here. An analytical framework that explains how overlapping personal identities, such result in unique combinations of discrete. Yeah. So it's just the myriad ways in which someone is different on identity, and then how it affects their general experience as in relation to things like privilege and discrimination.
Personality is a piece of wokeism. If you're going to group people on these immutable characteristics, and then you decide based on this, we got to put black people up here, we've got to put white guys down here, gays are going to be above the straights, trans will be above the gays. You know, you have this
And what
endless
specific
hierarchy.
policy harms have happened?
I mean, quite literally, the easiest one would be college admissions. I mean, we know that Harvard and other colleges were discriminating against mostly white and Asian students because they wanted more diversity, and they were allowing students of color with lesser grades to get in.
That's fair enough. That did happen. That's undeniable, but it's hard to argue that that's more damaging than, say, not releasing the Epstein files or going into war, things like this. or traumatizing people, oppressing them, and with ICE.
As a general rule,
If we're worried about universities, who's cutting their funding?
Well, hold
who's
on. Do you
cutting
agree?
science
Do you
funding?
agree? Do you agree that
Yes,
that happened?
she made a good point.
To some degree, I think it was overblown to a
Well,
large degree.
yeah, I
Because
mean,
affirmative action basically ended, I think, in the early 2000s, right? A lot of these issues were clamped down on pretty quickly. And the issue is that when you look at the reason why...
I mean, you could look at corporations. I mean, all these corporations that have their DEI stickers. I was just on a Delta flight. They still have their DEI sticker on there.
DEI is not inherently a bad thing. Why would diversity ever be a problem for anyone?
Well, diversity in and of itself is not a problem. But if you say we are going
what about inclusion?
We are going to hire people and we are going to factor in all of these immutable characteristics inherently by saying we're going to elevate one group of people, you are going to have to discriminate against another group.
Do you
of
have
people,
a diverse?
And that actually is racism.
Do you have a diverse,
bigotry.
unique experience?
I think the left and the right will always debate about that. They're never going to come to an agreement. Their opinions on DEI.
Based on your gayness that other people will never have.
I'm sorry?
Does your gayness give you insight into certain experiences that other people simply will not have because they're not gay?
Well, I suppose as a gay person, I do have experiences that some people don't have.
And you probably have knowledge
that was
and,
funny.
and experiences.
Did you not catch that?
I did get the joke.
You got that? Okay.
I mean, lots of people do all sorts of crazy sex.
All right.
Dave
So the
Chappelle,
issue
everyone.
is that
Comedy
what we're
is
talking
great.
about here when we
Comedic
come to
genius.
diversity.
But I wouldn't want that
is
to have
a benefit.
anything. I wouldn't want that to have anything to do with me being hired. Or
Sure,
me
but it's
being
really
allowed
hard to
into a
compare. So,
school.
sir, let's say I grant
Yeah.
you all of the woke harms.
Yeah.
The issue is that it didn't take us to Iran. It didn't kill schoolgirls. It didn't right now crush with the FCC and kick multiple people off of air and threaten to pull things. It's not burning books and.
That was a bit shifty there. That was a bit like equivocation. Like she was trying to make the point that that DEI is not harmful and is actually beneficial. And then once she realized that that's actually not an argument that can be defended, she just switched. So she went from wokeism is not harmful and is actually beneficial to what did she switch to something else completely. Oh, to the actual negative effect that Trump.
Wait,
Florida.
who's been kicked off air?
Jimmy Kimmel got kicked off of air. ABC was regularly under threat for doing these things. The FCC president,
ABC made
president
a decision.
came out after Trump called him and said that we can't have these type of things. They crushed James Tallarico. But this has happened over and over again. There
What do
are
you mean? They
books
crushed
being
James
burned.
Tallarico. James Tallarico is the nominee right now.
They crushed his appearance.
What do you mean they crushed
The
his
FCC
appearance?
wouldn't allow his appearance.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have
So
literally
the
no idea what
FCC
you're talking about.
about.
let me be.
I think you were talking about Colbert's show, but you've been voted out by the majority.
It's about time that he got fucking taken off air. God, goodness Christ.
You don't even realize.
You guys are slow, bro.
This guy's been ready to get
Going,
up there.
Dave.
Quick, how you
What is
doing?
that?
How you doing?
So I just quickly wanted to recognize, I love this, by the way. You have a very unconventional household, and wokeism has brought you that household, right? To live with your husband, to have your 2 children, or conceive through surrogacy. And I appreciate that.
Wokeism didn't bring that. Equal rights.
So
brought that
wokeism is,
equality.
as I define it, as I view it personally, is looking to expand on already existing civil liberties, right? To ensure that, to ensure America practices what it preaches, equal protections, inclusion of everybody, democracy, etc. So it's not a policy prescription, it's a social prescription. Donald Trump is president.
To just perpetually expand on liberties. That's what makes life worth living, and why that's what makes a happy and contented populace. Just an unending list of liberties. Is that what he meant? Just perpetual expansion. I don't know about that.
He's the head of the executive branch. He has a trifecta, a judiciary that's on his side. Donald Trump's violent. Donald Trump's destroying the pillars of America: democracy, negative rights, the rule of law, our Constitution. The list goes on and on. So I'm just curious to see what institutional damage has wokeism done. And
Sure.
if
Well,
you want to engage with Trump being violent, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just don't agree with anything you said there, period. First off, wokeism isn't what led to, say, gay marriage. What led to gay marriage is a fight for equality under the law. If you believe that heterosexual marriage, that an adult should be able to engage in any sort of contract with another adult, then that has to be.
This is where things get fishy, and it's hard to define a word. Like, it depends how you define wokeism, but it's hard to say that wokeism didn't. Like at the time when equal rights and gay marriage were being fought for, most people on the right would have called that. I mean, wokeism wasn't really coined back then. It wasn't really even used, but they would have said that's like, you know, far left politics.
Equal. That's what equal protection, which you just mentioned, is. And that's actually what the decision was based on.
Yes.
So that was not wokeism. That was the promise of America, which is the promise of individual rights and equal opportunity.
But how can you see? This is why I wouldn't like to be Dave Rubin or a gay conservative. Because how can you fight? How can you say that gay people should have the civil liberty to get married, but then you can't? But then you have to then, in the next breath, argue that trans people shouldn't get certain civil liberties. It's just like, it seems kind of rich, stopping it between, like, you know.
As for a few of the other things that you said there, again, I mean, if we could do that, you want to do the Iran thing again.
No, I said Donald Trump is violent.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is violent in what sense?
Yeah, so I also want to mention the reason why you left the left, correct me if I'm wrong, is because you believe progressives were turning to authoritarianism. Am I correct there?
I mean,
that was your PragerU video. You said it. You can't deny it.
Settle down, Chip. There was a panoply of reasons that I did.
But that's one of them, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think it's authoritarian for the president of the United States to call for the death of 6 active members of the legislature for making a video that is totally fine and legal?
It's interesting. Oh, well, first off, you're talking about the video where they basically
Mark
Kelly and several of these guys were basically saying if you're in the military, you can go against, you know, Trump and all those things. Well, first off, there are some legal actual reasons that perhaps you should not, as a former member of the military, be telling.
Yeah, the punishment for making videos is death. I forgot. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Did anyone?
Hang on. George Washington Wood.
Did anyone get put to death?
Doesn't matter. The president of the United States is actively calling for the death of members of the legislature.
And is anyone in trouble? Is anyone in trouble because of that? You're missing the difference.
No, you're saying Donald Trump.
Okay,
no, hold on.
Hang on.
Let's just understand the prompt here. You said wokeism has done more damage than Donald Trump ever did.
So explain
Can you tell
the
me
damage.
a single time wokeism is doing something remotely similar?
So remotely similar as Donald Trump.
You want damage?
Being slightly sarcastic.
I can give you damage.
Let me explain something.
I can give you the damage. Hold on.
Listen, let me explain something to you. Donald Trump, all you need to know about, for any one of you guys that think that Donald Trump's coming for you because you're gay or you're trans or something like that, or you're black or anything else, might I recommend you just read Art of the Deal, which Donald Trump wrote about 40 years ago.
It's terrible. It's just discussing his activities throughout the week.
You can dismiss it. You can dismiss it. But Donald Trump gave you his playbook 40 plus years ago. 40 plus years ago, he gave you the playbook on how he negotiates. He leads with crazy
So this is irrelevant
things.
To what I'm currently talking about.
No, it's completely.
No, you asked me about damage. I can give you examples, but you don't want.
That is a valid point, though. The left wing and Democrats have been falling for that for now like 8 years. They take his blatant, like, hyperbolic style of speaking. They take it for literal argument and literal. They take it as literal, and it's just you can't. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got, obviously, that's the way he tries to negotiate and make deals, apparently. And I feel like the left wing are bad at sort of reading between the lines when it comes to his speech.
Because you know you're going to get fried.
No,
that is the truth.
It's completely
Donald Trump
irrelevant.
tried to rewrite the Constitution via executive order with Executive Order 14160. And it was followed up by 141601, where they used this to target individuals for pro-Palestinian speech like Mahmoud Khalil. And this was already ruled upon, by the way.
All right.
I'm sure you know about this, correct?
Yeah. Okay, first
but he
off,
tried to rewrite the Constitution via executive order. Can the president do that?
There's a difference.
Can the president do that?
Hold on. There is a difference between exercising free speech.
He's not answering.
There's a difference between exercising free speech and closing down a campus and not letting students get. You're an interesting character.
Yeah.
Good. No, you seem nice. There's a difference between exercising free speech, which I will always defend your free speech, no matter how noxious it is.
The president
and
doesn't.
closing down campuses. No, they weren't.
Yes.
No, Mahmoud Khalil and all of these masked.
He was almost deported with no cause, and it's
Okay.
literally in the documents of the case.
Well, first off, Marco Rubio has illustrated the point many times.
true.
If you're here on a green card or a student visa
They
or
can never
anything
vote
else,
with no
you
cause.
don't have the exact same protections that you don't.
Congress shall make no law. What?
No.
Well,
Yeah, for people that are citizens of the United States of America.
What's the precedent for that?
Wait a minute.
Nothing. So Donald Trump tried to sign an executive order rewriting the birthright citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. Where did he get this power?
Let me ask you something. Do you think
is it authoritarian
Let me
to
ask you
act
something.
on a self-granted authority?
Hold on.
Can you answer my question?
Hold on.
You're not going to.
Yeah, I got to let me chat here for a sec.
Listen.
Listen.
Talk.
Let me ask you something. Let's try it this way. So let's say you and your girlfriend went on vacation. Bora Bora, you show up to the most beautiful place on earth, and she's 7 months pregnant, and she then gives birth in Bora Bora. You think your child should be a citizen of French Polynesia, Bora Bora? And you think
affirms that just solely principle, and I'm sorry the president cannot defy it because he doesn't like it.
The president,
that's how our country works.
No,
and
you
that
can
is an
fight it.
example of damage to
You can
America.
fight it in the courts. You can fight it in the courts.
I don't
He
really
doesn't
know how
like the courts. He ignores them. Prior to the Alien Enemies Act removals, Emile Beauvais.
Okay, we're out of time. We got to stop there.
Okay, got you.
My next surrounded claim is if you still vote for Democrats in 2026, you're voting for broken cities, broken schools, and broken borders.
If you would like to debate this claim, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
It's not a bad claim.
The data, there's too much of it.
That's okay. SAS Via builds models and makes
That's to just pay
decisions, so
for,
you don't have to freak out.
But we like freaking out.
We're getting so much done!
Pay for YouTube Premium because these adverts are going on my.
From data to ta-da, SAS Via.
Hey, how are you, Santana?
Can you explain a little bit about what you mean broken cities, broken schools, broken borders?
Sure. Well, broken cities, I would basically, you can boil it down to crime and drug use. And I can tell you, having been in here in Los Angeles for the last 36 hours,
run under Democrats, all these things do get worse, but it's hard to tell. Like for broken cities, obviously all the worst cities are. It's hard to tell whether it's a consequence of democratically run sort of government or if it's just because all the cities that are doing the worst are Democrat. But then again, it's because all the biggest cities are, I don't know.
I've seen more homeless people, more drug use, more urban decay than I've seen in the last 5 years combined living in Florida.
Yeah.
In terms of schools, it's basically brainwashing kids and teaching them what to think instead of teaching them how to think. And then what was the third one in terms of, borders is the easiest one. I mean, under the Biden administration, we let in somewhere, we don't even know what the actual number is, but somewhere between 16 to 20 million illegals. If Donald Trump did quite literally nothing else in his presidency, just getting control of the border, I would say would be good enough because you don't have a country if you don't know who is in it.
Okay, all three of your claims are wrong. Pick which one you want to be proved wrong on.
Let's do borders.
Perfect.
Okay.
Donald Trump is absolutely the worst president on the border. First and foremost, you can talk about the Langford bill, which was a piece of legislation which would have strengthened our borders, but Donald Trump had that legislation shot down. He
wait. So were the borders open under Obama?
No.
Or under Biden? Let's try that. The borders were not open.
What piece of legislation we did not that he passed to open the borders?
No, it's not about a piece of legislation. It's about quite
so
literally
how do you open the borders without legislation.
You just let people through, which is exactly what we're doing.
There was no one standing at the borders. Everybody just come right in.
In many cases, yes, actually. In many cases, they were quite literally moving barbed wire fence.
Where did you get this information?
There are videos of it. Have you ever seen the video of Bobby?
Did you fact check the videos?
Have you ever seen the video of Bobby Kennedy when he was running as a Democrat, standing at the border? He was still a Democrat.
Wait, you're talking about the same one that sniffed coke out of a toilet seat and admitted it recently. The same one that actually took a dead bear and dropped it in Central Park. The same one that actually chopped the head off a whale. You're citing RFK Jr.?
Yes, I am citing RFK Jr.
No, I don't hear that.
Who's running HHS right now?
Which he shouldn't be, but that's fine. Yeah. Listen, when you talk about...
how many people do you think came in under Biden? Let's see if we're even operating on the same plane.
The acceptable number is about 10 million.
Okay, so all right, fair enough. So I'll grant you that. They say it could be anywhere. I've heard 16 to 20 million, but let's say it's 10. Do you think that's good or fair or just or how a country can operate?
I think that when you create instability throughout the world and then you also tell people that your country's open, then you create an actual quote unquote border crisis. Think about this really quick.
What instability was Joe Biden causing?
What was Barack Obama's nickname?
Barry?
Deporter in chief.
Deporter in chief. Barack Obama had a negative immigration rate. that means that he deported more people than he let into the country. So
you're for deportation.
So we can say that there wasn't a border crisis under Obama, right?
The border crisis was significantly worse under Biden.
But under Obama, was there a crisis?
Barack Obama did.
Yes or no?
Barack Obama,
yes or no?
Barack Obama did deport, I think, more people than Donald Trump.
So,
yeah.
but then
I wish
you're saying,
Donald Trump was deporting more people.
Sure, yeah. I agree. So you're saying there was a crisis under Biden?
Yes.
Okay,
of course.
But no crisis under Obama?
No, I didn't say that. He was deporting.
I mean, yes or no? Yes or no?
Wait, hold on. Let's do Biden.
He had a negative deportation rate.
Let's do Biden and Trump.
So
let's do the last two administrations.
Yes or no?
I am for anyone that will close borders and deport
I'll say
people.
no. I'll say no. That's fine.
Okay.
So if there wasn't a crisis under Obama and there was a crisis under Biden, what happened in between those two administrations? Was there something that happened?
Wait, are you blaming Donald Trump for Joe Biden's border?
No, what I'm blaming Donald Trump for is when he's actually campaigning for president and he's going around and to any news organization that would let him speak and telling everyone that the border's open. They're wide open. Come on in, come on in. And he actually created something that wasn't there. So wait,
you're blaming people coming to this country illegally. You're blaming Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who really only appeared because of borders, right? Build a wall.
There wasn't a border issue.
That's what
there wasn't a border issue when he said that, right? But then when there was instability,
we've always had a completely porous border.
We had a negative deportation rate under Obama. He created the actual desire for people to come here because he told the lie that the borders was open.
Wait a minute, but why? But if America's a racist, evil, capitalist country, why would these people want to come here?
Because it's still better than the countries that they're in. Because the United States of
America's is pretty good.
Destabilizing other countries. CIA, our CIA keeps destabilizing other countries and overthrowing other countries.
So who did
We're doing that right now.
Wait. So who did Barack Obama destabilize that then Donald Trump allowed into the country?
The point being is our country has a history of destabilization. That doesn't matter if it's left or right.
So who did Barack? Well, I'm just playing your game here. So I'm just playing your game, man.
Created the need for people to come here, and there was no crisis, then Donald Trump not only created it, but he didn't handle it.
I'm sorry, man. Nothing you're saying is making sense here.
We got pause there. You've been voted out.
What country did Barack Obama destabilize that caused people to come here under Donald Trump?
I guess you'll never know.
Okay, you've been voted out.
Shut up, Donnie.
Okay.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Maybe. Nice to meet you, Dave.
Good to meet you.
So I myself am a Democrat. I'm actually running for state senate here in California.
Okay.
I would argue that I am about as far left as you can get as a Democrat.
Okay.
And I'm critical of the Democratic Party because I actually don't think they're left enough. If we're going to talk about broken cities, here we are in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is not a broken city. I live here. I feel safe walking down the street as an openly trans non-binary person, as somebody who does drag. This is not a broken city. It is unaffordable in many ways, but that is the case across the rest of the United States. And if we're going to talk about broken cities, we actually need to talk about broken states. 8 out of the 10 poorest states in the United States are Republican controlled. And the majority of states that are the wealthiest states are democratically controlled. And these are actually donor states to Republican states. And the irony is that Republicans are against welfare, except when it comes to funding their states.
Okay. Well, first off, I would say I'm very glad that as a trans person, you feel safe here. You should feel safe. And I treat anyone that treats me with respect, you're going to get respect out of me. So I appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear it. I assume you've been to West Hollywood, right?
I have.
I used to live in West Hollywood, pretty close to the Abbey. And I left about I moved to the Valley before that, but I lived there for about 6 years. And the 6 years that I lived there, from about 2013 to 2019, it was pretty clean and it was pretty safe. And there weren't drug addicts and homeless people all over the place. I spent the last 2 days there in West Hollywood. That's the hotel I'm staying at is there. There are drug addicts and homeless people everywhere. You would acknowledge that is the case, yes?
I would acknowledge that, but I would also acknowledge that there are plenty of housed people who are also drug addicts, and they never seem to be a problem. It's only when they're existing in poverty, abject poverty outside, that you have to witness it, that it becomes a problem. The issue is not that these people are dangerous. The mythology around people experiencing homelessness is that they are dangerous. The reality is that unhoused people are more likely to be victims of violent crime than perpetrators.
Well, all right. So listen, I can actually get on board some of what you're saying here. Now, there's a couple issues here because one of them is not just about
of other homeless people.
If you are going to create the conditions, the economic conditions, or whatever you want to call it, that's going to allow for these people.
Research local data consistently show that unhoused people are far more likely to be victims of violent crime than to commit it, with rates of assault, sexual violence. Yeah, I would assume by other homeless people.
To be out on the streets. Would you want to walk a baby in a carriage down that block as these people are there? I don't think you would.
I would, because I don't know the last time I've heard of an unhoused person attacking a baby. And these are,
you know what, I would say if you, no, it's not fear mongering. If you were a young
it's not
mother,
fear mongering. No one wants to live around
a bunch of people who clearly were on, well, now they have super meth or whatever it is. But it is real. It is a real thing. It is a real thing that are on any of these drugs. You would not want to push a carriage down that block. But it's not exactly just about violence per se.
I told you I would actually feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so you would. Most
these people.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most parents would not be comfortable with that. But it's not just about that. I would also say, if you spend any time in, well, Hollywood's become a total disaster too. But if you go down Melrose, you go down to these places that were once thriving. The store everywhere, the stores are closed.
Okay,
there are not shoppers, but it's because of the economic conditions.
Exactly, it's a part of the economic conditions. So what we need is economic equity.
No. But who's been running? But Democrats have been running this city forever. Democrats have been running the state of California forever.
Republicans who are running to represent the city, including Spencer Pratt, is not coming in to build housing for all the issues that there is not enough housing in Los Angeles.
But it's not a housing.
The number of people experiencing homelessness.
No.
Yes, it is, because on any given night.
Issue. It's not a housing issue. You could give drug addicts all the beds and homes that there are, and it will not work. It will not work. If you told me that what you were trying to do was figure out truly functional programs that would help these people get off drugs.
A bunch of those housing committees and housing campaigns are always like corrupt anyway. It's just fucking scheme to have the people that are running it just get millions into their own pocket.
Drugs, and they could actually work.
Like universal health care.
I could get on some of that. No, but just saying universal health care, and we're going to give health care to everybody.
Well, Dave, you haven't given me a moment to speak and retort. So what I want to say is that on any given night in Los Angeles, in LA County, there are more than 72,000 people experiencing homelessness. In LA City, there are more than 43,000
Democrat-run Los Angeles.
Let me finish.
Democrat-run
There are more than
Los
43,000 people experiencing homelessness. Yet there are only about 16,000 interim housing shelter beds. Meanwhile, there are more than 250,000 vacant units. Here's the thing, Democrats, what I'm saying.
Is your argument that Democrats have not funded, is your argument that Democrats have not funded homeless policies enough because they've
My argument is that Republicans are not going to fund it either. They're just going to criminalize our neighbors experiencing poverty, and we cannot criminalize our neighbors experiencing homelessness just because they are poor.
But you seem more angry at Republicans who've had nothing to do with this. Republicans have literally no influence in this city or in this state. So even if I could grant you some,
but they have said what they want to do, which is come in and criminalize people who are living poor in public, and that is not going to solve the problem. That is going to shuffle the problem down the street. Is going to create more incarceration.
You're angry at people. You seem angry at people that aren't in power and haven't been in power here in decades than the people who are actually in power. If you're angry,
I can be angry at both.
But if you're angry at somebody, be angry at Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, when he was mayor of San Francisco, had his 10-year plan to end homelessness in San Francisco. I am sure I don't have to tell you about the drug and homelessness problem.
You don't, but what we don't actually have is permanent supportive housing. We do not have enough permanent supportive housing with wraparound services.
So
you can't just criminalize people and throw people in jail.
No. So we have a fundamental difference on what you can do for these people. I don't think that if you take a bunch of drug addicts and just give them beds, that's going to solve anything. I think it's going to prolong it for the most part. Okay, so we have a fundamental difference there. That's just fine. But what I would say is aim your anger. I'm sure
that you would probably do drugs if you lived on the street as well.
Aim your anger at the people who have been in charge. Your anger should not be at Spencer
My anger is at the duopoly, which is both Democrats and Republicans.
But it's not a duopoly here. It's not a duopoly here. Here in Los Angeles, which has Karen.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this isn't the best surrounded I've ever seen. Sleepy Dave Rubin. And this topic sucks. This is such a bad topic.
He's quick. He's quick. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
So I really want to ground this conversation more in what I believe is the greatest damage that's happening right now in America, which is the affordability problem. And I think that there's no one who has exacerbated that more than Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. We can talk about cities specifically, but I'd like to just talk about the nation as a whole.
Sure.
If you look, I was previously an economics teacher for 12th grade. And if you look at the three primary indicators of how the economy is doing, GDP, the labor market, and inflation, all three of those are indicating that the economy is going in a downhill direction. And that's also validated by a recent poll. 73% of people in America are saying that the economy is in poor condition. Now, if you look at the primary things that the Trump administration has done, taking away people's health care in one big, beautiful bill, the war in Iran, which has raised gas prices, that's really the thing that is making everyone really feel like, oh, affordability, I need to choose between gas and groceries. This is
I made it the day before.
Big problem that we're experiencing. So I don't think that going more in a Republican direction is necessarily going to be helpful for that, because we're seeing that Donald Trump ran on a platform of making the economy better. He appealed to people, the populace, of saying, listen, I understand the struggle. They pointed the finger at immigrants, at trans people, LGBTQ people, but then he made it worse. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that, oh, you know, the economy could actually go in a worse direction. So I just want to say.
Again, I think there's been a certain theme that I obviously disagree with a little bit of the premise there, but I can basically get on board what you said there. Look, if you want to create the conditions for economic success, what I think you have to do is you have to lower taxes literally for everybody, and you have to eliminate as much regulation as possible, right? When we see a massive exodus right now, we'll use New York as an example. Since Mamdani has taken over, they have lost trillions of dollars in tax revenue, right? So the guy wants to fund big government programs, and what he's saying is, I want to tax these people more, and then he is causing them to leave. That is what people are going to do in a free society, right? We have states' rights, and in Florida, say we have no state income tax, we have low regulation, we create the conditions for economic boom, and that's what we're getting right now. It's not a coincidence that massive corporations, and if you look at nothing else, between blue and red right now, do you know how many people since COVID have moved to Florida?
I want to touch on what you were talking about, Mamdani, because I don't know the answer to that, but I can say.
Okay, I'm not trying to get you. So 2.3 million people have moved to Florida since COVID, right? And it was largely because of COVID. Then there were economic opportunities. Now it's because there's a huge boom down there, and there's lower taxes, and DeSantis is trying to get rid of property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. You know how many people have left California since COVID?
Well, I would like to talk about
I'm not trying to get
billionaires who would leave California if there was a proposed billionaire tax, and the percent is less than 5%.
No, but the billionaires
are
the billionaires
that billionaires will leave.
But the billionaires are leaving. Peter Thiel left. Elon Musk left. We can look at Ken Griffin.
What does
just
that
in the last 2 weeks?
Well,
if you want,
you've been voted out by the
majority. Yeah, if you want their money, they're going to take it. All right, I started.
Thanks.
He didn't try very hard.
Not really. Hi, Kian. Nice to meet you.
Hi, good to meet you.
I want to talk on broken schools. You mentioned that you think schools are teaching kids what to think, not how to think. I just finished my student teaching program today. I'm getting my teacher certificate like right now.
Great.
Thank you. Everything we talk about in my program, every piece of what you guys would probably consider to be like woke critical race theory has been so beneficial for me in my student teaching and connecting with our students.
Give me an example.
Yeah, taking students' backgrounds into account when I am planning my lessons, making it actually engaging for them is like the step one if you want to teach them anything. Because if students
can you give me an actual example? I'm
okay,
following
for
you
sure.
Here. Yeah.
Like I have noticed a lot of my students are specifically concerned about like money and being able to make money in the future. So when we're reading Romeo and Juliet, we talk about the class like dynamics at play in that play, because that's something they're interested in. So when I talk about that, they can buy in and they can actually do that.
Okay.
This is something that the right would look at and say is like CRT. You're just like looking at them because they're from like poor economic backgrounds, so they're doing all this.
Well, you haven't mentioned anything related to race. I don't have an inherent problem with what you just described right there. I don't see how that's CRT.
We're not trying to teach people what to think. We're teaching them how to think And the way to do that is by getting them engaged. And I think we see this in that all the top states are all blue states. All the top states for education are all blue states.
Florida's number one in higher education without question. I mean, you check the U.S. News World Report. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Florida's top 3.
It's not.
We'd
It's
have
not
to
in the
check.
top
Check U.S. News World Report. We can fact check it. Yeah,
Please do.
Yeah. What I would say, my basic.
Florida's at number 1 in overall education. Oh, fair enough. They all scoffed at that. Consistently strong higher education performance, while it ranks around 22nd in the pre-K through 12 sub-ranking. Number 1 in higher education, though. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Overall education, sorry.
Situation when it comes to education is we should have school choice. We should have charter schools. We should have public schools. We should have private schools. You shouldn't necessarily be stuck in a failing school just because of your zip code.
I'm glad you
want to have as much choice as possible within the system. And then it also creates competition. We have a huge
I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off.
We have
Private
a huge
and charter schools
boom.
are not more inclusive. Do you know what the average cost of
Well, I
private
didn't say anything about inclusive.
You said you don't want people to get stuck.
I don't want people. I want there
think
to be
schools should be inclusive.
Well, it depends what you mean by inclusive. So
I think that everyone should have similar opportunities, and the way to do that is not with school choice. School choice.
So
is
you want
gut.
state-run, no competition.
I think having public schools is the best way to get the most amount of people, and if we make public education good and we actually put resources into
that's a hell of a caveat.
I know, but who's in charge? School choice is what gets that.
But if you want school choice,
yes. Where do you think the funding goes with school choice? It comes from public education to go to private and charter schools.
Right. So I would have as many charter schools as possible, as many private schools as possible. I would encourage homeschooling. So you want to? I would encourage
eliminate public schooling.
I think actually you could over time. I think you could, but I'm not calling for that today. You want?
Can I tell you what I really want?
Schools.
Can I tell you what I really want?
So might I recommend?
Schools have always been state,
but has always been state run. And how do you think that's working out?
I think it was working out really great until we started gutting our funding. If we look at class sizes right now, can I talk about class sizes?
Sure.
My teacher, my mentor teacher, has class sizes of up to 40 students in her classes.
So
that is not sustainable. If we put more funding in, we can hire more teachers for those public schools to get class sizes down, which is the #1 thing.
So you think
if
we just put more money into these things?
I think if we hire more teachers, then we have lower class sizes. Teachers like myself can individualize our curriculum. We can take individual students.
I do think class sizes have a big effect on quality of education. So talking about funding, obviously funding isn't always good. You can't just chuck a bunch of money at a problem and have it be solved. But one thing that money could do is to employ more teachers per student. That would be a good thing, I think.
Into account in our lesson planning, which is something I do because I was lucky enough to have a small class size, but other classes don't have that, so it's not possible.
That you would be quite a good teacher, likely in a pod or at a charter school or at something where it would be more one-on-one.
I'd be a good teacher anywhere.
Yeah,
I promise.
Okay, we got to pause there.
That's
we got to
fine,
pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you.
Is your business stuck in the wrong place? Then try Workspace, where your business can happen.
What if I told you that you can go to university without GCSEs or A levels? The government is now funding degree programs through.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
All right, good. What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? So like an example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, et cetera.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now. Okay. So we're going to now see results of that, like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs. Are you for or against tariffs?
Against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Do you think? Hold on. So you're arguing that things economically were better under Joe Biden
at the end of his administration. Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off. Real median wage growth is better off. Inflation was better off at the end of his administration. Unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years, just this last year under Trump's administration. The inflation 3.8% year over year since Trump got in office. We're seeing all of those economic indicators become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now under Trump.
Have you looked at the stock market?
It's worse off in terms of growth in 2025 as compared to 2024. If you look at Dow Jones and S&P 500,
they're both up quite a bit right now,
but lower
doing
growth
quite
rate.
well. You know, things don't happen overnight. So Donald Trump, for example, things don't. That's true. That's true. There's reality. There's actual reality. Like, you put policies into place and they don't just kick in the next day, right?
Well,
Donald Trump,
a year and a half.
Donald Trump said when the tariffs.
He said in a year,
hold on,
prices
yeah,
will be down 50% for electricity. Are they up right now?
Hold on. Donald Trump, when he brought in the whole idea of tariffs, would you agree that for the last 4 decades, we have had completely lopsided trade deals with all of these countries where they're tariffing and taxing our products that go to them, and they're getting sweet deals when they sell to the American public? Do you think that's a fair?
Didn't Trump address that with the USMCA, but he went against that when he didn't extend it through the context of his new trade agreement because he wanted to place tariffs on all of them again. And his tariffs that he's placing on are destroying our relationships with countries all around the world.
No,
it's costing.
When you say destroying relationships,
it's costing consumers here in this country. A Federal Reserve report just came out indicated that we'd be below pre-pandemic levels of inflation if Donald Trump never imposed the tariffs in the first place. Meaning we'd be able to bring down interest rates and be able to increase investment within our economy and bring more jobs back.
Hold on. When you say destroying our relationships with other countries, well, other countries were getting sweet deals, right? If Canada, which was charging crazy taxes and tariffs on our products that were going to them, and we were basically charging nothing back, how can we sell to their market? So if they're upset with us, right?
That's
so
a good
China
point.
is a little upset with right now. We're upset with.
Obviously, I don't know much about American foreign policy when it comes to trading, but I've heard apparently it does seem the case that America is getting fucked a lot, on international trading.
With us, we're trying to get fairer deals. Canada, obviously under Carney, is upset with us because we're trying to get fairer deals. Donald Trump is trying to reset things. We were basically the world's piggy bank for the last, it's really basically post-World War II. And Donald Trump is trying to reverse that so that we will have fairer deals. If you told me that it was just zero across the board and there were no tariffs going any which way, I could completely get on board with that. But as long as countries are going to treat us unfairly, often while we foot the bill for their defense or a series of other things, and we give them foreign aid and everything else, well, then we should have equal playing field going both directions.
What better deal did he get?
What
better deal did he get?
What do you mean? Several countries have already come back, and we've
any of the conditions that made the trade better off. Give me the specifics.
Canada, I think they had something like a 60% tariff on cheese, literally on cheese, that was being sold from America, from Wisconsin to Canada. And that basically is zero right now. That's one little example. I think it's zero right now.
Okay, so that's a targeted tariff, not a universal tariff. Can you name one country that had
Canada did not have a flat 6% tariff on cheese. That's now basically zero. That's funny. Basically zero. I think it's basically zero. Okay, under USMCA, US cheese gets expanded duty-free access within quotas, but Canada still applies steep over-quota tariffs of about 245% on cheese. The protection was not reduced from 60 to 0.
a universal tariff on us?
I think there are several countries that
Name
did.
one.
I think there are several countries
Name
that
one.
did. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I think there are several countries that did.
Okay, so why are we
that
placing
zeroed
universal?
out the tariffs.
So then why don't we
I think
place-
Argentina did, if I'm not mistaken. I think Israel did. I think a few other countries did.
Why don't we put a proportional tariff
Yeah.
on them, the same that they put on us, so that we can negotiate that down?
Argentina, Israel. Okay, so we got that right. Goods with ongoing negotiation to reduce. Okay. Yeah, he's just come here completely ill-prepared. He doesn't have a single fact memorized. It's a poor
It
performance.
doesn't seem like Trump's looking for that.
What do you mean?
Trump's-
That's
Trump's-
exactly
hold on,
what
and
Trump
again,
did.
Let me just clarify. The tariffs are being paid by our consumers. So Trump, while trying to get his deals, is making inflation go up and making it worse off for you at the grocery store, worse off for you at the gas pump, worse off
do
for
you think
you
we should
when you're
just-
trying to buy a house.
yeah.
So can you, again, like you
Yeah,
could mention before,
I'm
can
not
you name
sure
one
if you're-
metric that
I'm not
Trump's
sure-
made better off
I'm
since he
just
got
not
in
sure of the
office?
premise of what you're saying, because do you think we should just have free trade with everybody without any
I
penalization
thought you were
going
like
either
libertarian.
way?
Don't you want
Yeah.
free trade?
No, that's what I'm saying. So,
Okay.
so I think you're agreeing with me. What Donald Trump
But
is trying
he
to
has
do
an
is
overall decreased tariffs.
he's trying.
The
'cause it
Supreme
does-
Court did more to decrease tariffs than he did.
It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
They're
you keep saying that.
negotiating these things.
Have we done anything in his office yet?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Scott Besson every day is negotiating with these other countries. You think that
I
he
think
can
the
just
negotiations are worse off with the
you-
JCPOA. We have less political concessions right now than we had a decade ago under the JCPOA. So tell me, what political concessions have we got with the war with Iran since Trump started it?
Well, right now, Iran literally exports no oil. Every day they are losing $500 million. So what you can do over time is you have a military adventure, which we had 40 days, which we took out their Air Force and their entire Navy and everything else. And now we completely control their economy.
What's the political concession since the beginning of the war?
What's the political concession from Iran since the beginning of the war?
Yes, name one.
Well, we're having negotiations with them right now.
And we haven't gotten anything?
We're having negotiations with them right now.
So nothing.
Well, we're in a negotiation process.
We've been in a war for 2.5 months now. We got no political concessions.
A war for 2.5 months. How long do you think wars are supposed to take? A decade
ago, we had a limitation in terms of them enriching uranium to 3.7%. That was going to be in place until 2030. It would still be in place to this day.
We started.
The JCPOA.
We started with this. They admitted they were enriching past that point.
The JCPOA.
Steve Witkoff said 2 or 3 days before the war started that they admitted they were enriching more. Also,
when Trump pulled out of the agreement, and then the original strike that we made a year ago, they haven't been building up.
You also have to go on the assumption.
DNI.
Why is it that you believe? Why would you believe the Iranian theocratic regime? Why would you believe that they are doing right?
That's the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appointed by Donald Trump. So explain to me why you don't believe her.
Listen, Marco Rubio.
Why don't you believe her?
Marco, hold on.
Why don't you believe the U.S. Intelligence Committee? Why do you think they're all lying?
So, are you saying that Donald Trump just ignored the entire U.S. intelligence community?
Yes, literally, that's what he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes.
That's it. That's okay. So that's an interesting disconnect that we have. I mean, Marco
Rubio. Why do they contradict each other?
Marco Rubio very clearly laid out what was going on here. And by the way, Donald Trump and every president for the last 40 years has said that Iran will not get a nuclear bomb. Right? Every president has said that. Joe Biden said no. Remember, Kamala Harris said no or
the JCPOA limited it to a greater extent. Okay. Why didn't you address that point?
Again. You are going on the assumption that you can trust these random inspectors that are going into these places.
IAEA?
Literally,
random inspectors. The IAEA is the International Atomic Energy.
With all due respect, I think that trusting some of these international things that they somehow have America's interests or the West's interests in mind, I think is a kind of faulty. It's just a faulty premise. I would say.
So the international actors that are lying. They don't actually have legitimate surveillance over their nuclear enrichment facilities?
No, they don't.
Okay, so
they don't.
Think
they have. What do you mean? They were buried under mountains. They were buried underground.
Need more space? Use ours. Safe Store Self-Storage have over 130
My next surrounded claim is that progressives push normal, moderate Americans to the right.
Like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
I think that's incontestable. It's just
hey, how are
fact, isn't it?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So my argument here is that what progressives are doing is opening up opportunities for people to reevaluate the way that they see politics, right? Progressives are arguing that more pocket power should be delivered to the average American. That is like one of the foundational tenets of progressivism.
Yeah. Can you say what is more pocket power mean?
Okay, right. So this is the idea, right, that under our current system, we see that the majority of power, as well as just like monetary control, exists within people who own private property. And to essentially decrease that gap, progressives want to give more power to those who are in the workplace.
Do you not want people to own private property?
Well, I'm definitely anti-capitalist, I would say. Yeah. So I would say that workers should own the means of production.
Right. Oh, so you're a communist.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
What is communism?
I haven't talked to a real life communist.
What's
in
a communist?
Well, you want the people to own the means of production, and you don't seem to believe in
the people
private
who create
property.
The people who create value, as in create the value of commodities, should own the actual value that they create from that process. Yes.
So my answer, if you want the people, everyone in this room and everyone in this country to have more, what I would want is that you would take less from them. So you tax everybody less. You remove regulation. You create the conditions for competition and capitalism so that more people will have more of their money. I want you, I assume you work. Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you pay taxes?
Yeah.
I want you to keep more of your money.
Right.
I don't know what you do. I don't know how much you earn. Whatever it is you earn, I want you to have more of that money so that you can put that money back into the system.
The majority of wealth in this system is owned by 1% of the population. You understand that, right? And where does that wealth come from?
Wait, 1% of the population. Do you know how much percent they pay in taxes? That 1%?
Not nearly enough, because the majority of their wealth comes from.
It's 47%. Hold on. So 1% of the population pay 47%. You accept that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be their
And
fair
what
share?
percent of that?
This is not true. In a current general sense, the 1% population pays 47%. Recently, RS data shows the top 1% pay about 30 to 40, 7% off all federal income tax, with an unusual peak near 46 across all taxes. Okay.
What would be their fair
Is their
share?
actual
About
wealth that they
40%.
own. That
What-
again, majority of these lineages of,
Well, you
of
seem
power
to
and
wait. Hold on.
ownership
What would be
date
their fair
back
share?
to
What would be their
first
fair share?
accumulation of.
What would be their
Oh,
fair
they
share?
do.
I would say that the fact that they own so much.
1%
You're not letting me finish my
47% in
points.
taxes.
Here's
Yeah.
my problem. You're not
Yeah.
letting me finish the point, so we
Yeah.
can't get from point A to B. Do you
Okay.
understand that?
Okay, so
Okay, cool.
if you accept
So
that 1%
there's
pay
not going to be a
47%,
fair share when their
yeah.
wealth is coming from the back ends of colonialism. So that's not going
No,
to
it
work.
isn't. Most
Okay,
wealth is
we're gonna pause.
generational. Most wealth is lost within like a few generations. What is she talking about?
There, we're gonna reset. Please return to your seat. You've been voted out.
He's back. All right.
Good to see you again, Dave.
Nice to see you.
It's interesting to point to like 5 anecdotal examples as like an overall consensus on where the American people are moving.
Well, I think they qualify more as more than anecdotal in that Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat member of Congress. Bobby Kennedy
Well,
is a Kennedy, which is a standard bearer for Democrat.
Do you think Bobby
policies.
Kennedy is also in alignment with most of his family? Would you say that they would concur that he's a representative of the Kennedy family?
I don't know. I don't know about most. I know some don't
Well,
like
most-
him. No,
most
some
don't
no,
like him,
some don't.
especially
Some
those that
don't
are
like
the
him,
most
and some
vocal
do.
and still participate
Well,
in
he's
politics.
he's the
But we
one
can
that's
move
in the
from that.
midst of the
Talking about people like
political-
Joe Rogan, Bill
Yeah.
Maher, these
Yeah.
are people that thrive off of clicks and popularity. What's more clickbaity than I left the left? So many people get that, not just because they're getting a whole new audience in order to capitulate to,
Yeah.
but there's also like
So you think Joe
there's
Rogan-
also like
you-
a lot
wait,
of like
wait, hold on,
there's a lot of like
hold on,
oligarchic
hold on.
money
Hold on.
too that like
That's quite
can
a claim.
incentivize people to
Wait,
change their worldview.
Wait. That's
like
that's
Russian money.
Hold on. That's
like
quite,
for people
hold
like
on.
Tim Pool
Hold
or
on.
like what was the Rubin report? Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But
Let's do
just
it.
very quickly, to impugn Joe's motives, that at the day before the election, he suddenly said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump for financial or click motives when he's the largest podcaster in the world. That's what you just
I'm
said.
not saying it's just
That
Joe
is-
Rogan.
that
I'm
is
saying
no, but that
that's
was
indicative of
that-
people
that
who
is
rely on
quite-
clicks.
that is quite
We
a
can walk
claim.
over Joe Rogan specifically.
Yeah,
I
that's
think his
quite
brain
bad.
broke during
Yeah.
COVID. I'm gonna be honest,
Yeah.
because he went from somebody who went from like a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, so
Well,
pro
he-
single payer healthcare, ensuring that we're more diplomatic in our international.
Do you think
policy
it's possibly he just
All of those-
evolved? Do you think it's possibly he just evolved to different points? than
All
you
of
did?
those
Do you
days.
think his brain
Real
broke?
quick.
It's not possible that he just
Real
started
quick,
thinking
Dave.
about things a little
All
bit
of those are
differently than you.
political foundations.
Yeah.
Believing that the United States should not continue interventionism, believing that universal health care should be a right to people. These
Well-
are political foundations.
No,
you
that-
don't
but
just
that- but
switch
that's not-
your
no,
political
no.
foundations like
No,
that.
Well, hold on.
You
First
find
off,
that people are bullying you,
it
or
is-
you're
it is
saying
not
the
a-
left's
it's
too
not a-
mean,
it's not
as
a
I've
right.
heard a lot
It's
of
not a
times.
right to someone else's labor. You have a right to.
We can have a
free
universal health care
speech.
debate if you want, but I'm
Sure.
talking the overall why America shifted
Okay,
to the right.
but it seems
I have to talk about
it seems
the
to me
last
you're-
person who debated.
it seems
Most
to-
people feel like they can't get a leg up in this economy.
Okay,
and
but-
when you have a Democratic Party, this is where I'm pretty critical of Joe Biden. You're going to love this.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I think that the Biden administration and then the following Kamala Harris presidential campaign, I don't think that they focus enough on what specifically needs to change in order for the average American to feel like their economic conditions are getting better. And while we can follow the metrics economically, and inflation was going down, unemployment was lower, most people didn't feel that. And when you feel like your rent is burdening you, 34% of Americans feel rent
Right.
burdened, which is huge. When you feel like the grocery prices are continuing to go higher, you're going to try to find an alternative. And when Donald Trump is saying, look, I'm going to fix all of the problems, I'm going to make sure everything's okay, some people are like, yeah, I want to go ahead and go.
Well,
with
that's
that.
what politics is, right? Like it's a secular
but,
four-year.
But we're not saying that ideologically Americans are more right wing. Why do progressive
hold
ballot
on.
propositions pass even in
Hold on.
red states?
Hold on.
Nebraska, Ohio, we could
All
go
right,
over
buddy, I
minimum.
Come on, let's not pretend that the craziness of the left wing over the past 4 to 5 years wasn't the reason why Trump got reelected. Let's not pretend that.
Wage increases.
I got you. You did a lot there. Okay.
Let's answer something.
So, okay, I'm trying. So first off, you want to talk about the tenant thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even
The
give it
tenant
to
thing
you.
would be
I'll give it to
interesting.
you.
Let's talk about the
Where do you
tenant
want to
thing.
go?
Yeah. Why did
So-
you take Russian money
Yeah.
and pretend
So
like you didn't know?
I was okay. So I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name? Post
Yeah,
Millennial
how was this
Online.
resolved?
Yeah.
I don't actually know how this resolved. I remember at the time paid vague attention to it, but so he was getting paid along with other people like Tim Pool. They're getting paid by Russian companies. But I don't know why. Because those Russian, what was the incentive for the Russian for the Russian government or companies, presumably that they wanted Trump back in power, or I really don't really
She's
understand.
like the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian?
Roaming
Is that her?
millennial. And I've known her for about 10 years.
Okay.
And we were friendly over the years, and we had agreements and disagreements,
Lauren
and we were on
Chen.
each
I know
other's
Lauren Chen.
shows. And she
Or is it Lauren?
contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know and I'm sure love, but it was people all over the political aisle. She said they wanted to create a free speech network. I said to her, listen, I am extremely, extremely busy, but I would consider doing something for you as long as I 100% control it. You have no control over the content whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money because I don't have time. And we'll see if we can come up with something.
To your defense, I'm not going to attribute you. Like, let's say you didn't know that. And I'm not trying to say that you were able to know that it was Russian money.
Yeah.
But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to get the American people on board. That's more of like the issue. It's not really your fault.
What show
it's
did
more
I-
so that
what-
like your
what-
whole ideology is like wokeness
What-
is bad.
What show did I do for Russia?
What?
What show did I do for
No,
Russia?
I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you as a stooge who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
But do you understand? They gave me no talking points. I did a show. It was
That's
a
the point.
call-in show.
But here's what we're missing, Dave, right? I'm not saying Russia gave you a script to say. I'm saying Russia's like, yes, this is our guy. If we fund him more and we give him more influence, he's going to do it for us without even getting a script. Isn't that embarrassing?
No.
You
Well,
did
it's
it
a
without even getting instruction from them.
It's a quite literal, fantastical adventure that you just went on there. Literally.
What's the adventure?
Literally, I did a call-in show.
Why
for
would
them.
Russia choose
you
you
don't
and
even
Tim
know.
Pool?
You
Why would Russia choose you and Tim
Hold
Pool?
on. You don't even know what I did. You don't even know what the Tenet show that I did, do you? Did you ever watch it? Do you know the name of it? Do you know anything that I did? So you don't. So you quite literally have no idea what you're talking about.
They just gave you money because they're altruistic?
No, buddy.
They're just
buddy,
like, we're thinking of giving it to Dave.
No, because no. Well, first off, so just to be clear, you have
this is
literally no
embarrassing.
idea what you're talking about. You don't know the name of the show. You don't know the
How
name
much
of the
money
show
did you
that I
get,
did.
Dave?
You don't know the name of the show that I did for
I
them or
don't
what
think I need
did.
to know the
You don't-
specifics
if
on
you
a
read-
podcaster who
if
takes
you read-
Russian money.
Oh my God! No, man.
But Dave is trying to respond to you.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh, I'm
let's hear
Yeah.
his side of the story.
Do you know?
Thank you,
I know
adjudicator.
he took Russian money.
But he's also. We also like haven't heard his entire.
I literally did a call-in show at first. So my audience just called me and asked questions. Sometimes we talked about basketball. We talked about video games. It had literally nothing to do with foreign policy. I don't think we did one show on Russia or anything else. And then we shifted the show. That was kind of boring to me. So I was like, my team, 5 minutes before we go live, we'll pick viral videos. You know, woman throws hamburger at somebody at Wendy's, and I'll respond to it. That's what we did. And then guess what happened? After about 6 months of that, because I controlled the entire thing, I didn't even know what the clips were before I was doing them. The deal was off. They didn't want to do it anymore because I did not do anything. Yeah. And also notice I'm not under federal indictment. I'm not sitting here with a lawyer or anything else. And as a matter of fact, Merrick Garland, who I'm no friend of, basically said that the influencers had nothing to do with this. And if you read just a second. And if you read the indictment, I'm the one that got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else.
That's the most right there I've heard about this whole
I'm not
debacle.
saying you were saying Russia's such a great country. Everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know. So
but
you
the fact-
didn't, just to be clear, you didn't know the show. You didn't know the show or what I do.
But the fact that they are building the social capital of the Rubin Report being larger in infrastructure is
It
because
wasn't the Rubin Report. It wasn't even the Rubin
you
Report.
as an entity, Dave,
Yeah.
they want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of
Do
the
you think
kindness
it-
of
do
their
you-
hearts.
do you think
They
it's-
didn't do it because they're like, Dave
So
seems like a good guy.
where is
They
the
did it
case?
because
Where is
Dave's
the case?
politics
Where is
is
the case?
advocating for cheerleading for Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism.
Where
That
is
is
the
the point.
case? Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case? Where's the case right now? Why am I even able to talk about it? Why don't I have a lawyer sitting here? Where's the
I'm
case?
not saying
at?
what you did
Is
was
the- is the
illegal in
case-
nature.
is the
I'm
case-
just saying that-
Well, hold on. There was a federal indictment. Wouldn't I be a little afraid to be talking about it right now?
I'm not, Dave. I'm not claiming.
Are
Look,
they?
I
have they
started
got?
this
Is anyone
conversation.
in? Is, there,
I
is
started
anyone
this
in jail
conversation
because
saying
of this?
you
or
might not
anything
even have known about the
Yeah.
Russian money. I'm not trying to cast that blame on you. I'm just saying it's interesting that your show is so ideologically aligned with what Russia wants for the United States that they are going to give you money to continue
going
to
over
do it.
Dave's
That is the point.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
All right, yeah, we got to pause. Mason, you got to go.
Sorry.
It's time I found back. I'm surprised you didn't start shouting that.
Hi.
Hello.
I actually will agree with you that establishment Democrats have done a really terrible job of ensuring that their policies reflect what the people actually want. Most people want universal health care.
Yeah.
Most people want free higher education so that they can actually get a job and move up in life.
I don't know that it's most people, but a certain set of people
will
do.
say that they would love for the rich to be taxed at the same rate that they used to be, closer towards the 90%, rather than
you wanna
taxing,
tax the rich
rather
at
than
90%.
taxing the rest of the population that can barely pay their rent.
Yeah.
And then they're watching shows like yours and they're hearing ideology more so than factual evidence.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know what? Yeah, the Democrats, establishment Democrats haven't been doing much that they said that they were going to do. So let me listen to this guy, and everything you give is emotion and ideology. So yeah, sometimes people who don't have nearly as much critical thinking as they probably should are going to move to the right.
Yeah.
But honestly, the base that's actually growing are the progressive base. Young voters are becoming much more progressive than they ever were.
Yeah.
Why? Because again, most people
Well,
want
I
the
agree. I
universal
agree with
healthcare.
that. That a lot of young people are very confused about what America is
Oh, they're
and what
confused
freedom
about what they
is.
want?
Yeah, they are. So you want, I mean, we could just do a few of what you just said. So how much money would you like to take from anyone to get whatever policy you want? What is the number? How much money should anyone have that you want to take to get whatever it is that you want done? Please give me a number.
It's interesting that you're using the rhetoric of taking when we're literally talking about a state, a society that functions solely through making sure that most people have their basic needs met.
So how much?
Unfortunately, establishment Democrats have moved so towards the corporatist side that they have forgotten what the people actually want.
So how much of Elon?
That's where
so
we
how
agree.
much of
Where
Elon
we
Musk?
disagree
All right, so let's use Elon
is your
Musk for
rhetoric
example.
around I'm going to take as much money as I
Well,
can
it is.
from the
It
rich.
is.
That's what it
It's
comes
not
down to.
taking-
No, it is. Of
it's
course it is. What do you
fairness.
mean? If you
It's-
don't
How's
give
it not
it, if they
taking?
say we're going to take it, and you don't give it, they're going to put you in jail, right? So it is taking. If
You're
it
saying
is so benevolent,
taxes, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going
yeah.
to jail.
If you
Oh, I see.
if it is so benevolent
not-
to
how's that not your
do
first
these things,
association?
then why don't more people do it?
No, it's just part of being a person living
So
in a country.
okay, so
Every
how much?
country has taxes.
So how much of Elon Musk's money would you like to take from him to do what?
I would
Tell me-
actually like
yeah.
for billionaires and the
Yeah.
rich in general to
yeah.
pay the same
Define
amount that
rich.
they were paying back in the 1950s.
Okay, so that's a rather radical position if you want.
In the
if you-
1950s,
Yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
it was Republicans
And
that
if,
were
so
in
you want
office.
to give that money to the system and the government, which you don't seem to like very much, right? You're
Mhm.
talking about corporate Democrats and you don't like the Republicans,
Uh-huh.
but your solution seems to be, I will take more money and put it into the system to do what I want. What I would prefer
to
to
do what
is
most
that
people want.
what I would prefer to do is that you have a job.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like you to keep more of your money. I want everyone, again, in this room to keep more of their money.
Mhm.
You know what happens when rich people have more of their money? They hire more people. They
That is
invest in more
factually
things.
so
No,
untrue.
no,
it is
it-
crazy.
no,
and that's what I'm
no,
saying. People like
no.
you will spit out this rhetoric,
Yeah.
and people who
But
are
it is
living
completely true.
paycheck to
Do you-
paycheck
let
and
me-
don't
let
have
me ask
nearly
you.
as much critical
Okay, we gotta
thinking.
pause there. We're out of time.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
No. My final surrounded claim is that the modern
trickle
left
down
cares more about
economics, isn't it?
ideology than reality.
Rich people
All
are
right.
having
If
more
you would
money,
like to debate this prompt,
by
get to the chair
fewer
in
taxes,
3, 2,
so it
1.
trickles down to the bottom.
How's it going, Dave?
All right. All right.
All right. Let's talk about reality.
Okay.
Let's talk about 3 things that exist in reality: climate change, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, and vaccines out of COVID are effective and safe. The right does not accept any of those things.
Yeah.
Does Donald Trump accept the 2020 election results? And do Republicans broadly accept the 2020 election results still to this day?
I think there's a lot of questions about the 2020 election.
But did Donald Trump accept it?
Oh,
Donald
David
Trump,
makes
I
it
think he
easy.
thinks something went awry.
So he does not accept it. Now, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I
Really?
know. No,
Interesting.
yeah, that's the truth. I know that he was not the president by the end of that, but I do know that in all the chaos of COVID and mail-in ballots and everything else, that somehow magically Joe Biden got something like 20 million more votes than Barack Obama. That's a little bit curious.
So all I would election because voting was made easier.
Oh, because voting was. Well, you might think it have something to do if you are doing mail-in ballots. There might be a little more access to fraudulent abilities.
You might think that, but you have to actually provide evidence to demonstrate that, right? So
I'm just skeptical. I'm just skeptical of it.
So
I don't know. I don't know. I'm skeptical of it.
Okay, so if just
I would venture to say that a little skepticism is probably a good thing.
When
also the COVID vaccines didn't work. I mean, that's a fact.
That is not
that
a
is
fact.
a fact.
That isn't.
If you got a COVID vaccine, could you get COVID?
If
you got a COVID, yes. Oh, you could. So
the claim was
you
never
transmit it.
Yes,
Joe
the claim was
Biden-
never that transmission was at 0%.
Joe
That's not how vaccines work.
Joe Biden. Hold on. Joe Biden.
They
If you
claim
get
if
the
you got
COVID
it,
vaccine, you will
wouldn't
not
transmit
get
it.
nor transmit COVID.
Okay,
That is what
that's
Joe
not-
Biden
but
said.
But that's not the
Anthony
claim.
Fauci
but
said that repeatedly.
That's not
Yeah.
what the right claims about the COVID
Yeah.
vaccine. Like, similar to yourself,
The
you
right?
said yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about whether or not the right or the left accepts reality. Correct. So the right claims that the COVID vaccine is unsafe and ineffective.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That is true.
No,
that is true.
Of the people who died from COVID, are the vast majority of them unvaccinated or vaccinated?
Hold on. Do you know
Unvaccinated or
I know.
vaccinated?
I know a young guy who's in his early 20s who never had any health. Wait. Who had never had any health problems. Young, healthy guy in his early 20s who had to get the COVID vaccine to go to college, and he now has myocarditis.
Okay.
Does that
know-
interest you at all? Does that interest you?
It
He had
does.
no reason.
It does.
That's an
He had no
anecdote.
reason to get a
It does-
vaccine
it does.
that
If he
would
did that,
stop
you're
him.
off in his
It did
face.
not stop him from getting COVID, and he could still transmit COVID.
We don't use anecdotes in science. This is let's pull it
So
back
the-
to
the
reality,
spy-
right?
yeah.
This is why science is so important. This is
So
why
you're
the
telling
left
me that-
actually
so
likes
you- so
science
you
because
think that-
we understand that
yeah.
anecdotes aren't
Yeah.
a good tool to use
Yeah.
when assessing
So you think-
scientific research.
So you think the government should have been allowed to force people to get a vaccine?
Okay,
that
so now
was
we're
rushed.
pivoting. We're
That
pivoting.
was
We're
rushed
pivoting.
through
We're
by
pivoting.
Operation Warp Speed, which was Donald Trump, a guy you don't seem to like very much.
Right. Yeah, sure. But we're pivoting.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
we're sure. I'm okay with Operation Warp Speed. I can.
So
I can,
the
I can
guy
say
that you seem to be quite deranged about, Donald Trump, pushes through a vaccine very fast, and you're
right
okay
because
with
I
that.
want to ensure that people
Yeah.
are healthy. But
Yeah,
but
even though the
what I
vaccine-
don't
the
like,
vaccine
what I
did
don't
not do
like is the
anything.
fact
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Republicans and especially like right-wing influencers
Yeah.
downplayed the efficacy of vaccines and claimed that they were unsafe or ineffective.
But they were ineffective.
No, they
all right,
weren't.
So we
If
were
it
fundamentally
reduces, if it reduces,
young healthy people had no reason.
if it
to get the
reduces
vaccine.
the rate of transmission,
A vaccine-
that is literally what a vaccine is intended
we were
to do.
sold the bill of goods that they
Okay.
sold us was that you would not get nor transmit COVID. That is the president of the United States words as he was forcing people to get that vaccine.
If he said that, then I would agree that his assessment of it was
well,
false.
he's the president of the United
Yeah.
States.
You
should
do-
have. You should.
Do you think? Wait.
Hold on,
Wait.
Are you saying?
Speaking of presidents, speaking of presidents of the United States,
are you saying we should have been forced
how about
into-
Donald Trump in suggesting that people should drink bleach or do hydroxychloroquine? He's the president of the United States. Do you think that was
Wild. I
at
can't
all?
believe that
Do you
was
think that
actually
was
true.
The bleach thing is a completely made up farce. The bleach. He didn't. Yes, he told people to inject bleach. Have you seen the whole quote? You think he told people to inject bleach? Like really?
Is he joking?
Like, you're that
He
deep-
suggested,
you're that deep
suggested
in
that
it?
things like
'Cause I
hydroxychloroquine
have seen
were
the clip, but
effective.
I
That means at
context.
preventing COVID.
There
That's
were
not
all,
the case.
there were all sorts
That's
of
not
other
the case.
treatments. There were monoclonal treatments. People did use HCQ. There
Yeah.
were all sorts of things
People
that were.
people used other
Yeah,
things, but that
yeah.
doesn't mean that that doesn't mean
So,
that the
I'm
vaccine
confused. Is
wasn't
your-
the most safe and effective means.
He did not literally instruct Americans to inject bleach. That line is a shorthand that exaggerates his exact words, even though his remarks clearly invited that interpretation and had to be walked back.
There used to be something.
transmitting
There
COVID.
used to be something called herd immunity. There used to be that young people would actually go
Yeah.
outside and get sun and run around and do exercise and
Yeah,
not
the
be sitting
issue-
inside playing video games all day and taking takeout food and getting fatter and everything else. Like you might want to encourage people to be healthy rather than take a largely experimental vaccine that turned out not to be a vaccine.
First, I don't know what you mean by not a vaccine. It's
You
clearly a
still could-
vaccine.
It wasn't a
It doesn't mean
vaccine.
just because something is a vaccine
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's 0% transmissibility.
Okay, we got pause there. You've been voted out.
Okay.
Ooh, smooth.
Hey,
Hi.
Very poised walk to the
Nice
chair
to meet
there.
you.
So
Huge.
I would just like to get into the fact that I think it's actually conservatives and Republicans who don't live in reality, because in reality, Trump is actually making it worse for people who
What a surprise that both the left and the right think that neither of them live in reality.
claim they want
What are we gonna do?
affordability. Nothing in the big, beautiful bill actually helps poor Americans. It actually increased their taxes and gave tax breaks to corporations and the ultra wealthy. So if we want to talk about who's not living in reality, I think it's the people who are poor but support Trump because they think that he likes them.
Well, again, I think one of the consistent themes here is that we just have a fundamental difference on what makes an economy work. And what I think makes
Okay,
an
so
economy
what makes an
work.
economy
No,
work?
so what I think makes an economy work
Yes.
is lower taxes for everybody.
So did he lower taxes for everybody,
competition,
or did he actually
yeah.
increase taxes for the poor?
He didn't increase taxes for the poor. He
You
didn't
can
increase
actually go. You can
taxes for
actually
the
go
poor.
look at it. But if
If-
you are poor,
Yeah.
after the Big Beautiful
What-
Act,
what-
you're
what-
actually
what
paying
do you
more in
mean by
taxes.
poor? What qualifies as poor?
You make under a certain amount.
Yeah, well, if you make under something like $50,000, you basically pay no taxes anyway. But if the argument, you guys seem to keep coming around to the argument that if you could just take more from a certain set of people, that we could solve all.
I'm
of the
not even
problems.
arguing that right now.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Trump is not helping people at all. He's not giving tax breaks to them. He's
Well,
giving tax breaks to the ultra
on.
wealthy when he should be giving tax breaks to, you said,
So you
everybody
like tax
at least.
breaks. So you like
well, no,
tax
I'm
breaks.
saying if you want to be like consistent,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you would give tax breaks to everybody, but he's not doing that. He's only doing
poorest,
it that with
the poorest people pay virtually no tax. The
Okay,
poorest
but
people
I'm-
pay virtually no tax. And again, the 1% pay 47%. So what percentage would you find acceptable? I really mean that. I seem to
Fair
not be able to get an
I
answer on
don't
that.
want to
What-
get
She
into
should
the
be able to
actual
answer it.
specifics.
Well, of course
no,
you don't.
because
Of
I'm
course you
here
don't.
to actually say that
But okay, so Elon Musk, who's sending people to Mars.
I think this is
he
not
doing
relevant,
Teslas,
though.
He's
Okay,
doing
this
the
is not
boring
relevant to
but this
your
is,
prompts.
No, because human flourishing is important. And when you take someone like
human
Elon,
flourishing, yes,
yeah,
is
and when
important.
you
Who
take-
works for Elon Musk?
yeah, 144,000 people.
Okay, so should those people also be getting tax
a lot of
breaks?
Of
stuff.
course.
So
of course.
why aren't they
Of
under
course,
his
but they
policy?
are. But what are you talking
but
about?
they're not.
But they are.
But they're not.
How many people do you think?
Also-
how many people do you think Elon Musk pays that are making less than $50,000? I'm going to venture to say it's virtually nobody. Virtually nobody at his companies. That basically everybody's making over 50. That means those people, almost everybody, got a tax break or a tax rebate under Donald Trump. But even
I implore everyone to look that up because if you actually look it up,
I implore them as well. I implore them as well.
You've been voted out. You've been voted out.
Fact check it. That would have been interesting to find out. I kind of agree with it on its face, though.
Hi.
How are you? Love
Good,
the
how
hair.
are you?
Love the hair.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of just want to echo what everyone else has been saying. I do agree that the Republican Party, I feel like, has been much more focused on ideology than reality. And
Sure.
specifically, Trump made several campaign promises to his voters that he hasn't come through on. And yet we continue to hear you guys bootlick him all the time. And it's very
Well,
frustrating
the
to me that
topic
you're
is
not
the modern
holding-
left cares more about ideology.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I disagree with the claim.
Yeah.
I think that the modern right cares more about ideology. I
Well,
mean,
what
let's
is
look
that
at
ideology?
so
Yeah.
let's look at some of the things that Trump ran on, right?
Yeah.
He ran on an America First campaign, and then he
Yeah.
bombs Venezuela. Then he doesn't end the war in Israel, even though he promised he was going to do that.
What,
He
what do you mean?
starts
The
a
war is
conflict.
over. The war's over.
No, it's
What do you mean?
very much
There's
no.
a ceasefire. There's not one Israeli in Gaza. The hostages are home. There's a
No,
reconstruction
that is
that's beginning.
absolutely not true.
What
That
do you-
is fundamentally false.
Wait, you're saying there are hostages in Gaza right now, and the war is continuing.
The
right now?
conflict has continued.
Yeah.
Yes, there have continued to be bombs. And
They're-
moving
they're
on.
bombing Gaza right now. That's what you're
Yes,
telling me.
yes.
Yeah. That's not.
I mean, I know
that's
you
not
get your
true.
news from
That's not
Grok,
true.
but like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a fact. that is-
Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire framework, but Israel strikes and military operations in Gaza have continued amid disputes over Hamas disarmament and implementation of the deal. Israeli officials say further withdrawal depends on Hamas disarming, while critics argue continued strikes undermine the ceasefire. The hostage issue was central to the deal, but by January 2026, Israel said all remaining Israeli hostages and bodies have been returned.
continue to happen. So he promises to be America first, right? He doesn't end the war in Israel. He starts a war in Iran while simultaneously defunding the VA, right? So he's sending people to go fight an unnecessary war while defunding like the organization and the institution that helps
That's a
those people.
horrible
That's not
dichotomy there.
America first at all. He promised he was going to drain the swamp, and then he puts Kash Patel in, who's drunk at work. Then he puts Pam Bondi in, numpty, right? She ain't doing shit. Then he puts Kristi Noem and her big booby boyfriend in, right? He didn't drain the swamp at all. He dumped raw sewage in the swamp. Like, he hasn't come through on any of his promises, and you continue to defend him. You are not accepting the reality that Trump failed his voters.
The topic here is the modern left cares more about ideology than reality.
Yes,
you're
and
giving
I
me
disagree.
you're giving
the
me
modern right cares more about ideology than reality.
but that's not what the topic is. If you want to talk about what my claim was, it's that the modern left.
I am referencing your claim. You just don't want to interact with this because you know you're going to lose. You know all these things. You don't want to say that Pam Bondi was
I'll tell you what my claim is. The modern left, which cares more
I heard the
about
claim. And
trans
I disagree
ideology,
with the claim.
which cares more about racial ideology.
No, you're trying to focus on trying to focus on your definition of progressivism.
I'm going on what's on the paper.
You're focusing
right
on your definition of progressivism because you don't want to admit that Trump has failed his voters.
No,
Trump has failed his voters. He has not come through on his promises.
I just
he
disagree, but that's not what the topic
He said he was going to be tough on crime, especially immigrants, but he pardons the president of Honduras, who was literally in jail for smuggling 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. He has not come through with his promises.
I'm confused.
And your
so you want
the
government to be tougher on crime? Is that what you're telling me?
But that's
you're
what he
a lefty.
promised his voters.
You're a lefty, and you want the government.
I'm just looking at reality. The reality is Trump made a promise that he did not keep.
Yeah.
His actions do not align with what he ran on.
I actually wish Donald Trump was being harder on crime,
Exactly.
and I actually
but
wish.
the fact that you've defended him for the last 3 hours
Well, you
proves
don't-
that you're not in touch with the reality of the situation.
No, I wish he was doing more as it came to deportations. You can only do so many things at once. You don't get everything that you want all the time.
You just defended Trump. You just defended Trump's deportation policy.
No.
So you wish he was doing more, or you're defending it. What is it?
No, I like the policy. I wish he was doing more.
Okay,
I
so
wish he was doing more.
The fact that you are continuing to support a president who has not come through on his party promises is delusions.
No, it's not delusions.
It is
Donald Trump,
delusions.
as I said at the beginning.
You sat
Donald
here
Trump-
and defended
Donald
him
Trump,
for
if
so
Donald-
long.
If Donald Trump did nothing else other than close the borders, he has already done more than enough for the country.
That's you. Whoa.
we had an
You think
absolute-
in 4 years a president's only responsibility is to close the
No,
borders? He's
that's-
supposed to be
no.
running the free
No,
world.
that's-
He's supposed to be running the entire
that's
country.
not
That's
what
all
I-
you care about is
no,
the
if-
border.
If you have a slow,
What about healthcare?
if
What
you
about the
have a
national
slow-
debt?
if
He's
you have a
increased the
slow-
national debt by
if you
$2.5
have a
trillion.
slow
You don't get about that?
If you have a slow, soft invasion of your country happening, then at the very least, you can close the borders and start kicking out the people who are not supposed to be here.
Okay, but you just
right?
said
So
if
Donald-
the only thing
yeah.
that Trump did
Yeah,
is close the borders,
if the
that would
only-
be an effective
well,
presidency to you?
If the only thing he did, no, I want him to do more. And
Okay,
he
so
is
then
doing
why
more.
would
So
you
I
say
would-
that him
I
closing
would-
the borders would be an
I
effective
would-
presidency? The
I
end,
would,
full stop.
if I was Donald Trump, because presidents have to do a lot of different things at once. You don't.
Okay,
get
but you just
exactly
said
what
if
you
he
want.
did one singular thing,
That would-
that's
that would-
all. That's a good president to you?
If
Really?
relative to where we were with
That
Joe
sounds
Biden,
like a lame duck president to me.
relative-
If the only
rel-
thing he can accomplish in 4 years is
All right,
one
you wanna,
thing,
you wanna have like a silly semantic argument. I think you
it's
understand.
not a silly semantic
Yeah, I think you.
argument.
I
just
think.
said
I think
something
you
dumb and I'm
understand.
calling you out on it.
No. I think you understand the point that I'm making. That in and of itself, closing the border is by far the most important thing that had to happen.
Absolutely
By
no.
far.
So you don't care
we
that
had an
wait,
invasion
hold on.
into this country. 16 to 20 million people, on top of the fact that we probably had at least 12 million illegals here in the first
Diva,
place.
so you don't
Immigration
care
is-
that he just cut
we
$1
have about
trillion
the most
from
prominent
Medicaid.
topic
You don't
in
care
so
that he
far
defunded the
30
EPA. You don't care
I
that
don't
he
care
defunded
that
the
he
VA.
I don't
You
care
don't
that
care
he
that
funded the
he.
EPA, but
15
that's
years, I
besides the
think.
point.
None of those things. You don't care. It's
No.
just as long as he does immigration, you're happy.
No,
That's
no,
delusional.
that is
You're not
one-
accepting the
no,
reality
that is
of the
one-
issues in this country.
No, it's interesting. You guys all seem to hate the government and hate Donald Trump, but you love government programs. I don't understand. That seems to be the disconnect with
Yes,
progressives
we love
as a
government
general
programs
rule.
when they are effective
Yeah.
in supporting
Might
the
I-
needs of the
might I
United
offer-
States
Might
citizens.
I offer that most of you
Absolutely.
guys who are in
We
your
gotta
20s,
pause
you don't
here.
really understand how the world works.
We got to pause here. We've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
Good move. How you doing?
So your fundamental claim is that the left is more in touch with ideology than reality, right?
Yeah.
Make America Great Again is an ideological claim that they are trying to make America great again. That is fundamentally incongruous with reality because Donald Trump is not making America great. He's attacking the fundamental fabric that makes America America. For example, birthright citizenship. One of the things that distinguishes us from other countries in the Western world, in first world countries, is that we have jus soli. If someone is born here, they are an American. If someone believes in the ideals of America,
Don't most Western countries have that? Birth citizenship, birthright citizenship. I think England has it, at least. I don't know.
they're an
I thought it was
American.
pretty standard
That's
policy.
just not
Meanwhile,
true. Someone believes in the ideals of America, they're American. So someone in Canada believes in the ideals of America, they're American.
To
Of course
quote
that's
the
not- of course
great
that's not true.
conservative thinker Ronald Reagan,
Yeah.
there are millions of unknowing Americans. He
But they have to become
The
Americans.
conservative
You don't-
ideology of the 1980s actually invited
No,
people into
probably a good
America
quote.
that were going
There
to
are
work
millions
hard
of
and build a better
unknown
life.
Of course,
Not people who
you
try
would-
to
you-
destroy
you
America
would agree that you have to
by
come legally.
removing those people.
Well, first off, you would agree that they have to come legally?
I think that we need to reform our legal process so that
Possibly.
people can come here legally effectively.
So-
Trump has actually
yeah.
shut down legal immigration
Yeah.
more than he shut down illegal
Well,
immigration.
no, that's not
But
true.
more
Because the border is completely closed. There are people that are waiting in line to get into
So
the country.
that's not
But
true. Trump has
ideologically-
sent back
Yeah.
about 80,000 people
Yeah,
over
it's-
the course of
yeah.
the second administration. Biden sent away 956,000. When it comes to border crossings, Biden stopped much more border crossings than Trump did. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying, objectively speaking,
wait.
on a per year basis, Biden stopped more border crossings than Trump
Is
did.
anyone coming through the border right now?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, what numbers are coming through? I mean, the border is
I don't know the exact number.
The
We
borders-
don't
the
actually
borders-
track that. We
the
only
borders-
track
hold on.
border
The borders,
crossings.
the borders are
Uh,
completely
about
closed and they were
three
wide
quarters-
open under Biden.
Three
But
quarters of a million
the Reagan
deportation
comment
since
that you just
Trump's
made
second
is that
term began.
ideologically, it's a
600,000.
beautiful thing about this country,
Saying
which
that
is
another
interesting,
1.9
which is
million
that,
have
yes,
self-reported.
anyone can become an American, but you don't become an American by believing in American ideals. You become an American by having a set of beliefs and then applying to become a citizen and doing it lawfully and legally. And that is completely not what we have had for the 4 years before Donald
So
Trump.
to become an American, either you're born here or you immigrate here and then you get legal residence and eventually from there you become a citizen. If that's the case and that's what we're respecting, why is Stephen Miller ordering 3,500 deportations a day? And then to do that,
but
the
of
Trump
people who are here
administration-
illegally.
No,
People-
because
so are
Trump
you saying we're
removed-
deporting-
Trump tried to remove temporary protected status of over 500,000 people who are here legally so that they could reach the 3,500 mark. If someone is changing
are you
the
saying
law
we're
to make someone that has
wait.
legal status illegal,
Hold on. Are you
that's
saying
not coming after people
you're
who
saying
came
we're
here illegally?
You're saying we're deporting legal.
We're actually deporting
American
U.S. citizens. We
citizens.
deported a 4-year-old kid with lung cancer. We deported a 10-year-old
You're
kid
talking about because the
with
father.
brain cancer.
If you're talking about
They
because
deported
the father
a 10-year-old
was
kid with brain cancer.
But you're
They
talking
kept
about because the
4-year-old
father was illegal and they didn't want to break up the family.
Was
correct?
the kid an American citizen or not?
By the law of the United States, if the kid was born here by birthright citizenship, then he was. But are you
Why are
saying
you
that we should-
deporting an American citizen?
because they were deporting the father?
Why
so
are
they
you
made
deporting?
the choice.
The reality is that the
No.
kid is an American
No, no, no,
citizen.
no, no.
Why are you deporting an American citizen
Because-
unless
because
you are
do you
ignoring
wanna
the material
separate- do you want
reality?
to separate the father from the child?
No, but if they're receiving medical treatment, life-saving medication in a first world country,
But
granted
if
one of the
wait,
worst healthcare
in this
situations in
specific
a
case-
first world country, I think you'd be
I
better
just want to
sending
make
to
sure we're talking
Sweden.
about the same case. So in
Yeah.
this specific case, you grant that the father was illegal, right?
We're
And the
talking about
kid-
multiple cases.
All right,
There's
but
a 4-year-old kid with lung
but
cancer,
in
a
that
10-year-old
case,
kid with brain
the father
cancer.
was illegal, correct?
From my understanding, one of the parents was not documented.
Right. So they didn't want to break up the family. I don't think you would want to do that. And I
Okay,
wouldn't
if
want
they
to do
were
that. So
acting in
we
the
would- they
best
had to-
interest of the child, why were
Okay.
they withholding medication
Okay,
while
we
they're
gotta-
in detention?
We got to
Again-
pause here.
Again, the father was illegal. They didn't want to break up the family.
We got to pause here. You've been voted out.
Okay.
Are you a student moving out of your accommodation this summer?
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
Then you need Love Space. Love Space can...
It's a pretty hard argument
Listen,
to
Dave, I'm
defend.
going to be honest. I'm a little tired, but I'm not the president, so I'm not going to fall asleep, okay? Give me a second. Let me see that. So
Hilarious.
I want to defend the Democratic Party because...
Did you think that was funny?
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But let's slow down. First of all, I'm pretty sure you talked a lot of shit about Joe Biden, who's demented, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to defend the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Do you
It is
not think Joe Biden had cognitive problems?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Okay.
Yeah.
The Democratic
annoying.
Party is
Are you an improv or something? I'm just curious.
Can we lock in or
I'm just trying to
lock
figure
in,
it out.
King?
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
listen.
Yeah, no, I'm with
listen.
you. I'm trying to
So
read what's going on
The
here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Democratic Party, the left,
Yeah.
is clearly receptive to the needs of the American people because it's shown in the elections. It's shown in the candidates that they're giving out. If you need Zoran Mamdani in New York, you'll get it. If you need Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, you'll get it. If you need James Salarico in Texas, Ossoff in Georgia, you're going to get it. But you know what party hasn't changed their mind? What party is so crazy that they will go back on their #1 campaign promise and say affordability is a hoax? It's MAGA. And it's evident that, hold on, a lot of people say Trump is stupid. And I think he's a little dumb, but I think he's also malicious. Reality is what Donald Trump makes it. And a perfect example is his response to a tragedy. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, hours before there was even a suspect in custody, Donald Trump blamed half of the electorate, Nancy Mace said the Democrats own this. Van Orden said that it was the fake news media for peddling these radical points. You know what AOC said? This is a time that we need unity. This is a time we need to come together. We need to deal with political violence.
Yeah.
The Republican Party, MAGA, uses death as a cudgel to justify the unjustifiable. And that is denying reality. That's making reality whatever you want it to be. And people like you are corrupted enough to spew it all over social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll respond. Out of all the people, I have to say you're the worst, like by far.
Yeah, because you're having a lot of trouble responding to things I say. Yeah.
You honestly believe that there is a moral equivalence to the tone and tenor of what goes on the right versus what goes on the left? Did Hassan Piker, who is the #1 influencer on the left, did he not just go on an interview? I'll give you 2 examples. He went on an interview a couple weeks ago and said that he understands why Luigi Mangione killed Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. When you guys open up that Pandora's box, guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like your ideology. And once you can kind of excuse violence, it's coming every which way. And then it happened again. In the New York Times interview that he did 2 weeks ago, he said the same thing. Well, Donald Trump, a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, so I can kind of understand why people might kill him. Once you guys do that, once you go past that red line, it literally ends the fabric of what this country is, because we are allowed to have political disagreements. We have deep political disagreements. I would never tacitly endorse or pretend to condone someone if they tried to violently harm you or any of these people. But subtly on the left, that is being allowed. And that simply is not happening on the right. It simply is not happening.
Okay, we got to stop there because we're out of time.
That's going to be a good
We are
one.
now at the final portion of the video.
Who's he going to debate?
Please look around the room. Choose
Who's he gonna
somebody who you
pick?
haven't spoken to or who you want to speak to more. They will bring their own claim and you'll debate for 10 minutes.
Sure. I have to say, first off, I thoroughly enjoyed this, believe it or not. This is what it's all about, and we can agree to disagree. It's what my entire career and life has been about, so that's just fine. There was some odd moments of real tension, and I could see some real hatred in a couple of the eyes, but 2 that I did not see it in were you and you. So this is a complete toss-up with the 2 of you. But I actually think our conversation was the most interesting, and I think there's the most room to try to get something on the other side of it. So I'd love to bring it back up.
That's a tactical choice. Yeah. I think he sees flaws in the identity.
My
which he
surrounded
could
claim
bar.
is trans rights are human rights. One of the first initiatives of Donald Trump in this current presidency, he put forth an executive order essentially attempting to ban gender-affirming healthcare for people under 19 years of age.
Yeah.
And when we say under 19 years of age, this also includes adults who are 18 years old, who are old enough to go off and die in a war for oil imperialism in Israel, but they can't make their own healthcare decisions.
Okay, let's do this. I love how you guys have to get Israel into this thing. It's like Israel is the one place in the Middle East that you could go and you would be celebrated.
I couldn't get married there.
That's actually the...
God, why are you trying to defend that? Under protecting the chemical surgical mutilation, like why are you trying to argue for under 18-year-olds to be?
Well, they
to be
are
able
not
to do
perfect,
this?
and no country is, but you would be treated equally and with respect, and they have the biggest LGBT pride parade. It's coming up in 2 weeks. You should probably go. You might find it quite interesting. Anyway, as far as the claim, I 100% believe that trans rights are human rights, or that trans people should be treated equally under the law, 100%. Now, so what your claim is about people that are under, let's say, 19, right? Now, that's a different thing. If you are going to chemically castrate a kid, or if you are going to give them hormone blockers or a series of other things when they are 5, 6, 7, 12, when they're in the middle of what? Wait,
That's not happening.
Wait. It is happening. It is happening. Or if you are going to literally have schools where they are calling a child by a different gender and a different name without alerting the parents, et cetera, et cetera. These things are happening. Then I am not for that. But however, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 39.
Can I ask a lady? See,
I'm 39 and a half.
I'll even use your pronouns, because as long as you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect.
I'm
of course.
39 and a half. I'll be 40 this
All right,
summer.
great.
And
so wait. So let me say something. So I want you to be treated under the law with 100% equality. Every single thing that I and everyone else in this country should be treated to, which is equality of opportunity and equality under law, you should be treated. I'm not that interested in talking about my sexuality. It's actually a very unimportant part of my life in a weird way. And maybe that's because I'll be 50 next month. And as time goes by, you realize you just are who you are and you do the best you can in the world, right? But I understand feeling. I grew up in a time when there was no gay marriage. And when I was a kid, for however confused I was or anything else, there was I never thought about the future because it wasn't even a thing. Like there was literally no future. And then magic happened over time and we got equal rights. I have been married for, it's a long time now. I've been married for about 13 years. My husband and I have been together for 15 years. We're in a 100% monogamous relationship. We have two of the most incredible kids who I want to grow up with the most amount of respect and love and who are safe and cherished and all of those wonderful things, as I hope if you want, you will get in your life too. The reason I mention that is because the difference between equal rights for everybody, versus what you might do to a child are very different things. If there is a child who I suspect when you were a young kid, how old were you when you thought you were in the?
I was 5. I was 5 years old when
Okay.
I realized that I was a trans person.
young.
Okay. I can
really
accept that.
Can I also ask how old you were when you
Younger than I thought.
realized that you were gay?
Oh, a 10.
I mean, I came out very late for a series of other reasons.
And are you still
but
gay?
Only after 10 p.m. So I don't know what time it is right now.
Okay.
Oh, look, I made him laugh. There you go.
You know,
okay. Wait. I'm not. Wait, hold on. I'm really.
Stephen,
I think I'm granted you an awful
Stephen
lot.
David.
The,
his first
the only
successful
thing that
book,
I would say
2026
related to a 5-year-old who is having gender dysphoria or whatever term you want to apply it to is that you should wait until the child can make those decisions properly for themselves, that your brain at 5 was not developed enough to do it. And there was so much social pressure over the last couple of years to trans kids. Abigail Shrier wrote an incredible book about this, that a certain amount of it is a social contagion. That is true. That is empirically true. I'm not saying it was you, right? I'm not. I'm friends with Blair White. I believe that Blair was biologically a male and believes that she, and I will call her she because she treats me with respect and I'll treat her with respect, that she transitioned when the time was right. The issue for most people on the right is about the kids. I can tell you this, it's funny because a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me. Yeah, I'll get there. Listen, a lot of you tried to use my sexuality against me, and I can tell, and it's interesting because you guys also think sexuality is very important, right? So you would think I would have been afforded, as someone that travels in circles that you guys don't, I go to Republican things and I have to traverse that a little bit, and it can be tricky at times, but I've shown Republicans that you can be a decent human being who can have a family and be monogamous. That job,
Dave, I really appreciate you being kind. We're less than 5 now, and I have not really had a moment to speak.
Yeah. So again, I'm just making the point between children and adults.
And that's exactly what I'm going to respond to right now.
Enough.
I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate you not misgendering me. I appreciate you treating me like I'm just a regular human being. And that's what trans people are. We are just regular human beings with the same struggles, trying to get through this life. Actually, more struggles because we have this whole group of people who want to take away our rights.
Sure.
As somebody who's been an elected,
so can you
let
just
me
tell
finish,
me what right?
Let me speak.
But what right?
Yes,
I'm just asking. What right as an adult?
Right now, as somebody who's been an elected official in Los Angeles since 2019, every single year I've seen more and more and more anti-LGBTQIA bills moving across the federal legislature and across state legislatures all across the U.S. And when I say anti-LGBTQIA bills, what I actually mean is anti-trans bills, bills that are trying to limit our existence in society, bills that are trying to limit how we can receive healthcare, how we can make our own autonomous healthcare decisions, how we can even participate in going to the bathroom. We all have to take a shit, and that is something we should be able to do freely and privately without somebody recording us in the bathroom and trying to make us go viral and make it seem like we are the predators. Now, you describe this idea of 5-year-olds being chemically castrated. Here's the thing. You cannot compare a 5-year-old who is going to perhaps socially transition and wants to go by a name that is opposite of the gender they were assigned at birth, or want to wear clothes that are different. 5-year-olds are not receiving any sort of medical transition. And so you say that they should wait. And that's true. And that's exactly why puberty blockers are prescribed to teenagers that are about to go through puberty. And here's the issue.
How old is that, would you say?
I would say anywhere from probably maybe like 10, 11, 12.
Right.
And here's the thing.
But do you think their
puberty
brains are
blockers
developed
have
enough
been,
to know the full,
yes, I do.
The full ramifications of what they're doing?
Yes,
a 10-year-old?
because puberty blockers have been around for over 30 years. They've been prescribed to kids who are experiencing precocious puberty. And yet this has never been an issue for the right. It is only an issue for the
because it's not random people being just by people being conducted into this ideology by like osmosis. It's been people that have had diagnosable clinical problems with their gender, and so they've perhaps taken puberty blockers or whatever. It isn't just impressionable little children copying their schoolmates or whatever.
Right, when somebody decides, oh, I'm trans, and they together with their family and their physicians want to make that decision. So they're not getting surgery at 10 years old. They're taking puberty blockers to make that decision over time with their family and their physicians. There is no reason why you or the President of the United States should be able to decide what is right for somebody's healthcare, for an individual, for somebody else's child, unless you are their doctor or their parent.
Okay, so listen, I have a couple fundamental disagreements with that when it comes to minors, but the issue is about trans rights or human rights. So we can
trans people are disproportionately unhoused, disproportionately experience housing discrimination,
Again, but
healthcare discrimination.
Again, if you
told
me, wait, hold on,
are legal,
hold on,
we are actually experiencing
Fine,
discrimination every single day in every realm of society.
Yeah, you know, I've experienced discrimination. I'm going to guess almost everyone here in some way has something that they've been discriminated against or judged upon or something else. What you have in America is equality under the law, and you have an opportunity.
We don't when Republicans are trying to legislate against us.
But tell me, so you as an adult, what law is stopping you from doing anything that another person cannot do, that literally anyone in this room cannot do?
See, this is the thing, is you were trying to hide behind this idea of the law.
No. But I mean that.
But the reality is laws are not protecting trans people. If they were, trans people would not be disproportionately unemployed, unhoused.
What would you like the law to do for you? Again, the law can guarantee equality. It can't guarantee protection, right? So
yes, it certainly can.
So what would you like the law to do for you?
I would like the law to protect trans people, and it's not the law. Our legislators are actively legislating against us.
Again, if there was a law, if you can point me to a law that was discriminating against trans adults, they can't get a job, they can't whatever, then of course
I just said at the beginning of this debate, Donald Trump is trying to ban gender affirming healthcare for people who are 18 years old.
You're talking about minors. You're talking about minors.
18-year-olds aren't minors. They can go off and die in a war, but for some reason they can't make their own autonomous healthcare decisions, according to Donald Trump.
Okay, listen. When we're talking about young people, it's a different thing. It's
exactly. And these are not your young people. They're not his young people. These are, no 5-year-old is walking into a medical office and getting puberty blockers without the consent of their parent or their.
But so you don't think there's any element of social contagion over the last 10 years?
I don't. And even if there is, that's okay, because there's nothing wrong with being trans. And if somebody decides to detransition, that's okay. But they can't tell everybody else that they're not allowed to transition.
Again, I think we're sort of splitting hairs on this, that we're agreeing to disagree on. Perhaps
she's so in the wrong that they just can't make the
underage portion of it.
To even make this
but again,
how many times have you seen people on the right make fun of trans people because, especially trans women, because they look like a man? But you're allowed to what prevents them by allowing them to go through puberty blockers and to make their own autonomous healthcare decisions.
Yeah, but. Okay, so have we whittled this down to some people make jokes about people? They do. They make jokes about people.
They're not just joking. They're trying to legislate against our very existence.
But again, if
your friend Michael Knowles at CPAC said that we need to eradicate transgenderism in society. That is a direct threat to me, my neighbors, my friends, and family.
Okay, I promise you this. I promise you this. If Michael Knowles or anyone else starts pushing for legislation that will jail you or stop you from getting a job or any of the other freedoms that we all enjoy, I promise you I will be on your side of that. So
I can't wait to be on your show soon.
All right, then there we go.
Thanks for chatting, Dave.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Tune in this Wednesday for a follow-up conversation where I'll talk to some of the cast from this episode.
Well, that wasn't the most eventful debate I've ever seen in my life, but it's a good one to begin this series with. I'm going to be watching about one of these every day, hopefully doing a series every day where I just view, hopefully alongside some people in my stream, a debate or a sort of topical, philosophical, political conversation. And hopefully getting into a little bit of debate myself, if I can sort of wiggle my way into the space, into the community. I realized I wasn't speaking that much this time. There wasn't much commentary from me. It's been a while, and I'm just getting used to my setup. I've got these new headphones, and so hopefully I speak more next time. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.